from the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoak Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with David Craig and Craig Smoak.
And here we go. And I had a rundown set. And then all of a sudden, things change. Craig Smoak, good afternoon. I'm David Craig. Good afternoon to you, our great audience and viewers. 365 Sports, the Smoak Show, afternoons at 3 o'clock. I really couldn't believe how this story just took off, but Garrett Ross is our resident LSU expert. We'll have Mike Scarborough at about 4 just for a quick hit from Baton Rouge. Craig, Jaden Daniels, who I just absolutely like him to death, no matter even if last year was a mess, injuries or whatever. What has he done here in this request and now a statement release? We'll have that with his jersey number and also the Heisman Trophy and more.
Well, hello, everybody. Are you asking me to explain the story for everybody?
No, well, let's do this. Let's start off with this. Earlier this morning, there was a report on ESPN that Jaden Daniels, an attorney representing him, had sent a cease and desist to LSU. They could no longer use his name, image, and likeness. Said he, Jaden Daniels, at least from the attorney, profoundly disrespected after LSU allowed cornerback DJ Pickett, a highly recruited player, to wear his former number 5 jersey. Then there was some other stories that came down that he wanted them to send the Heisman Trophy to him. There are multiple Heisman trophies. So that's where we are. Then there he is holding the Heisman and much more. Go back to the one with Moscone, and then, Craig, I'm going to get your feedback. We'll get it from the chat room. The LSU Jaden Daniels saga takes another strange turn. This was late morning. Sources confirmed Daniels' camp wants LSU to return his copy of the Heisman Trophy, something LSU has no intention of doing. Daniels contacted LSU leadership before fall camp. Lane Kiffin has personally spoken to Daniels, and we'll hear in a minute from what Lane Kiffin had to say, and he kind of had to stumble on a few things. And the latest from Jaden Daniels. Craig.
Yeah, so I think, again, what's up, everybody? Appreciate you being along with us for the ride today, as always. I think this is a very interesting and fun story to talk about. I also think we desperately need to get football season. I feel like this is a story no matter when it occurs, but it's definitely 2 or 3 times bigger because it occurred on August 13th and not September 15th when we were more
right
preoccupied by actual on the field results. So thank you to the headline gods out there for ensuring safe passage through the rest of the month of August with plenty to talk about, because without this story today, I mean, there's the typical things that we would discuss involving college football. But this certainly has taken on a life of its own. So from that standpoint, thank you, Jaden. Thank you, LSU, for the gift that fell into our laps. And from the other standpoint of I think this is everybody having fun with it, but also it's being blown up into a much bigger deal because it's like the only story going on today. But it is interesting because, to kind of, I guess, sum it up, I'm sure most people watching probably have already read through most of it, and you really just scraped the surface of everything. But apparently DJ Pickett was promised during his recruitment to wear the number 5. Unbeknownst to Jaden Daniels, who as a Heisman Trophy winner at LSU feels as though his number should be treated somewhat sacredly, and seemingly out of nowhere now, he has had people on his side, many people pointing to his mother, who I think I'd seen some things in passing about her over the last couple years as a Commanders fan, just kind of seeing stuff about Jaden Daniels. I saw a lot about his mom and how close they are and how maybe she's the shot caller, or not maybe she is, and maybe too involved and this, that, and the other. And so then it starts to come out that his mother's maybe driving the bus here, and basically they are saying they don't want LSU to use him in any name, image, likeness, marketing or campaigns or anything of the sort. And they seem to be pretty ticked off that LSU is allowing someone else to wear his number, even though that recruit was promised to be able to wear that number. Now, there's a little bit of confusion on who exactly promised DJ Pickett to wear the number because it occurred right during Brian Kelly's tenure.
Right.
Kelly said he wasn't open to promising anything, at least in the quotes that I read. And then Kiffin, I don't think, was too involved with it. So based on what I read, and I haven't read every piece of literature about this, I'm still kind of confused on to who made the promise, like if it was the assistant coach recruiting him or ultimately how that decision was made. Either way, he got the number 5. Daniels and his representatives aren't happy about it. And so now they're saying, take us off all the advertising. We never agreed to be used. His image, his likeness, this, that, and the other. And so, yeah, I mean, there's more to it than just that, but that's like as basic of a gist as I could get to. And so it's blown up, and he's had to backtrack and kind of come out with a statement. LSU's said a little bit, but not a ton. And I know we'll get into that, but yeah, it's turned into a whole thing today.
It's been back and forth. So one of the comments in the statement, or the attorney to LSU, the Daniels family is deeply disappointed, feels profoundly disrespected. I mentioned that about Jaden's number to another player. Jaden and his family had every reason to believe that his number would remain a meaningful part of LSU legacy and would be honored and protected in recognition of his extraordinary contributions to the university. We're going to get into LSU jersey numbers retirement in just a moment. So that was that. Here's Lane Kiffin when he had questions today about, so what was promised and Pickett getting the jersey number 5.
If that wasn't the first question. I commented a week ago on that. And so that's the comment that I had, and we're moving forward.
It's just to ask one more question,
Sure.
just to understand numbers. If someone were to ask for number 9, would that be on the table for you? How would you handle that situation when a player asks for that?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. There's a lot to numbers and whether they're retired, whether they're not, and different versions. And so I don't have an answer.
Joe Burrow won number 9, led LSU, one of the arguably one of the best teams of all time. In 2019, he wore jersey number 9, and so that was Kiffin responding to that. LSU has the following numbers, and then recently Jaden Daniels just released a statement. Billy Cannon, who retired when I was born in 1959, the only number completely taken out of circulation, the number 20. Tommy Casanova, defensive back, 37. Jerry Stovall, halfback, number 21, retired in 2018, remains active for use by current players. Same with the Casanova 37, Charles Alexander, hell of a running back, retired, number 4. And then Burt Jones, quarterback, set to be officially retired in November of this upcoming season. So they have numbers that are retired, honored, some that are out of rotation, some that aren't, including apparently Jaden Daniels and anyone with number 5.
I mean, there's a difference. There's a difference in having your jersey retired and a number retired. They put up a Burrow number 9 jersey, which they will inevitably at some point, and they'll probably, would not be surprised given his stature, retire that permanently to where nobody wears number 9, especially in light of this whole fiasco. I mean, even seeing Lane Kiffin's body language and how uncomfortable he is, you'd think there's some like massive scandal going on where like he can't say anything because the lawyers are going to get involved. And I don't know. I find this so silly. Like, this is the silliest story.
It's absolutely silly.
But it's like he's answering it as though like it's the Penn State scandal or something. You know what I mean? It's like it's so goofy. And that's why I said at the beginning of like, if this happens a month from now, I'm sure it's a big deal in Baton Rouge, and I'm sure it gets a lot of press, but it gets 1/10, maybe less of the press than it does by happening on August 13th. So just seeing how uncomfortable Lane Kiffin is answering this, it's just kind of hilarious because it is just about a number, but obviously it means a lot to Jaden Daniels, and he feels some level of disrespect, or his mother does, or his team does, or whatever at this point does. But obviously it's a touchy thing where Kiffin can't say anything concrete because I'm sure he's had these conversations with ongoing recruits about numbers and how that works. And so he probably is not wanting to put his foot in his mouth, but Yeah, there's a difference in having your jersey retired and it says Burrow 9 in the rafters in Baton Rouge versus the number 9's completely off limits. So some of those guys' names that you read, I believe there is like Billy Cannon's the only one where nobody can wear number 20.
Right.
The other ones are jersey retirements, though. There's a difference. So in either case, jersey retirement or number retirement, regardless of distinction, none of that's in play for Jaden Daniels right now, and he's still on that clock of having not been gone long enough to where they start to review that sort of thing, because it did say in the reading that I was going through earlier, there's a 5-year waiting period after your career's over with. So he hasn't been away from LSU for 5 years just yet.
Yep.
So I mean, bottom line is, regardless of what the rules are and the ways they go about this, it seems just very petty on the part of Jaden Daniels. Now, I can understand an athlete who feels like maybe they're getting disrespected and they look over and they see you using their name, image, likeness in marketing, and you're on the cover of this program and you're in this commercial and you're doing this. And then meanwhile, you feel like they're not really respecting you, but they're using you. I can see where you'd be at a crossways with the athletic department, but for it to turn into this is just absurd. Like, this is way too big of a story for something that's not that big of a deal in the big picture.
It's as simple as Jaden Daniels maybe picking up the phone, or somebody if he has an agent or whatever. But okay, here we go with more. So DJ Pickett, who has number 5, was promised number 5, was on the podium earlier today, and he said he wishes Daniels the best, but he will remain in jersey number 5. It's the number I was promised. That's pretty much all he said. His father said even more so that they're going to wear number 5 because of today. Now, here is the statement from Jaden Daniels. And this looks like either he's covering for somebody else or he's walking it back or whatever, because this has gotten to be just crazy. I have been locked in on training camp, and that's been my number one focus. I have a lot of gratitude for my time at LSU. I'm proud of my teammates that I accomplished there. Obviously, there are issues to be worked out between my team and LSU, and my hope is that it will get done privately. My sole personal focus is on the Commanders football. I realize the business of football is unique, and I trust this can all be resolved.
Well, I mean, Jaden Daniels is basically a robot. Having watched the guy for the last couple of years as a Commander, I mean, he does not really say much that begs controversy. He doesn't seem like a guy that loves the limelight outside of just when he's playing football. And I see now, based on a lot of the responses to this story, that he is very much a mama's boy, and she's very heavily involved in his life. And I guess that includes here as well. So, I mean, I think that's a nice statement. I just think that the problem is that you had to come out with a statement anyways, because this wasn't resolved behind closed doors. Now, going back to Pickett and that number being promised, I guess Brian Kelly, it was during his tenure when it was promised, and then he backed away because they didn't have the permission to do it. So I don't know how all of this followed through, and I'm sure we'll learn it where Pickett still ended up with it because Kiffin took over, so Kelly didn't have the decision to make anymore. But, yeah, it was promised to him during his recruitment. Kelly apparently backed off of that. Kiffin takes over. Pickett gets number 5 is the basic gist of how I know this worked out. So I'm sure in that turnover that maybe hey, should we tell Jaden this? Maybe got lost in translation, or maybe nobody felt the need to do it because they didn't feel like he had the final say on who gets to wear his number or not. Heisman be damned. Now, there are programs that if you win a Heisman, like Oklahoma, they build a statue for you, or they retire your jersey, or they put your name in the rafters or whatever. And I'm sure all that's coming his way, and honors will continue to go the way of Jordan Jefferson and Joe Burrow and all the rest of those guys. But I think in this case, yeah, clearly the Jaden Daniels camp, Justin Jefferson, I meant, the Jaden Daniels camp expected a specific type of treatment, or maybe just were rubbed the wrong way and decided to I guess, push back, and it's led to this. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird deal, and I'm sure they're kind of scrambling behind the scenes to clear up any confusion and to make things right. But it does seem, more than anything else, very petty on the part of the Daniels side of things.
Petty's a great word. Yeah,
it's just super petty. It's
very, very petty. So here now, do we have something else? Is that it that we have? That's it. Okay. So we're going to have Mike Scarborough, Craig. We're going to have him join us at 4, tigerbait.com, and give us the latest of what today was like. This, in his statement, Daniels did not walk it back. He did not say I can't believe that his mother, leadership among the Daniels family, Jaden, the attorney, agent, whoever, did not think that this was going to end anything other than badly. So this guy, he's not Joe Burrow. His stats his last year before he was drafted, his stats are better. Not much than Joe Burrow's. I mean, almost identical. A few more yards passing, but Burrow won a national title. Both of them transferred in from another school. Burrow from what was Ohio State, and of course, Jaden Daniels after his time at Arizona State.
Yeah, and so I've been out running errands all day, and I've been able to read some of this. So some of the details, like on how this was handed over, I'm still kind of picking up on the fly. So yeah, Kiffin's, I guess Kelly's staff was the one that had promised it originally, and then Kiffin, this is the part I was missing a second ago, felt the school needed to honor the promise, and so they gave him number 5 eventually. So he's just going with what was basically already laid out there. And hey, he's got to coach Pickett. He's not coaching Jaden Daniels, so he's got to be right for the guy who's on his team. So yeah, Pickett's going to wear number 5 just like he was promised. Seems pretty clear cut. Does feel like something that could have been handled behind the scenes, which leads me to believe either the Daniels family thinks way too much of themselves and thought it would be a good idea to somehow send out to the press that they were sending this cease and desist to LSU, and somebody somewhere thought that would make them look good, I guess, and they were very wrong. Or they didn't think that LSU would put it out, and LSU put it out and made it public that this was going on, probably because they knew it would make Jaden Daniels look like a dumbass and kind of petty, or at least his camp look that way. And so, yeah, it's turned into a story that on a day like today definitely has some legs to it and definitely puts Jaden Daniels in the worst of the lights. Not that you swear off the guy or that he's some horrible human being, but you do side-eye his mother a little bit based on how everybody's talking, and you do kind of wonder how much he's calling the shots as well, and if he is calling the shots, why he wasn't smart enough to decide this wasn't a shot to make. So, yeah, handle this behind the scenes, clear it up that way. Don't have Lane Kiffin having to answer questions about this in the middle of fall camp, which clearly he's uncomfortable even answering because clearly they're still trying to work out whatever issues there are behind the scenes, and I'm sure they want to still advertise for him. You know, I will say Jaden Daniels does have, at some point, depending on whatever type of NIL deal he signed, and I know that was some of the discussion was, well, the NIL deal lasts 180 days after you play your last game, and so he's well past that at this point. So if they're still putting him in marketing materials and he doesn't give them permission to do that, well, then I think that's fair to push back on. But that's not something you do in public. That's something that you contact LSU, your mother, or your agent, or whoever, and you say like, "Hey, we gotta talk this through. If you're gonna use me, like, you need to pay me some money, or if you're gonna use me, then retire my number, or let's do some sort of a trade off." But yeah, he somebody in his camp felt disrespected. Too disrespected to go the route they went and making this as big of a deal as they did, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So, not a great look for Jaden Daniels.
They both had almost identical stats. By the way, Nick Jose, Iowa State, thank you very much. The helmet came in when
one thing at a time, but go ahead.
Yeah, you know me. I mean, look, there's a duck, but I wanted to make sure because this is a nice helmet. We're gathering these helmets, and we got this. Should have made a comment about that at the start of the show. Both of them 4,200, 4,500 yards passing, 44 overall touchdowns to 46, 93 QBR to 95. Burrow's team was undefeated and one of the most dominant teams when he won the national championship. Jaden Daniels and LSU were 10-4 in his last year. So just a bad look. And for a guy that to me has done everything right, but just a bad look. And if he knew the letter was going out, then there should have been at least somehow or another pre-communication. Maybe there was. We'll know more as we get more into the story.
Yeah, I mean, I understand him having an issue with his NIL being used if they haven't agreed on that, and especially if he takes issue with a number and he's under the impression there was some agreement that was going to be treated differently. But it never should have been this public. It looks bad on him. I have to think that LSU probably knew that and made this more public, unless his camp is just, again, dumb and thought that somehow this would make them look good if they leaked it. But either way, they should have handled this behind the scenes, a phone call between him and Lane Kiffin. I think numbers are sacred in some ways, but I don't think that in this day and age, you can just willy-nilly retire numbers. Now, a Heisman Trophy winner, yeah, retire the jersey, but I think if you're at LSU, you start retiring numbers based on Heisman Trophy winners, and you're going to run out of like really good numbers to use for people. So that's why you retire the jersey,
right,
not the number. And maybe that's coming his way. But, yeah, Burrow just sits back, doesn't say anything, and just looks like even more of a hero and legend than he already was by doing nothing. And by doing nothing, by not raising a complaint, even though his number has not been worn. So would he have responded differently if somebody's wearing number 9 and he was under the impression that he should be treated differently? He's Joe Burrow, so probably not. But if he took issue with it, I'm pretty sure Joe Burrow just would have called somebody at LSU and they would have hashed it out and taken care of it, and we would never have known about it otherwise. The Daniels clan decided to take it a different route. And so, yeah, Burrow looks like Joe Cool still and somebody not making a big deal out of nothing. And Daniels looks a little bit petty, but I'm sure it'll all be fine in the end. I'm sure LSU and Jaden Daniels will come to some sort of an agreement. He's a Heisman Trophy winner after all. I'm sure he'll get his jersey retired at some point, but no, that number 5 is still going to be worn by a lot of people moving forward, especially a popular number like that.
Absolutely. So there we are. It's interesting to get into it. Again, an update that we'll have Mike Scarborough or anything else at 4. Now, got these from Trey Wallace last night. He sent me this from Fox. He's been on with us now quite a bit. He's going to also he's committed to doing a weekly segment with us starting Wednesdays during the football season, even before that. So it's great to have him on. Here are the ticket prices for the bigger games coming up in college football, including LSU and Ole Miss. Of course, Kiffin returns to Oxford. Nearly $600. Now, this is off of what is, what's the name of the company? Ticketmaster. So these can fluctuate. Ohio State, Texas. Banger, $575. Wisconsin and Notre Dame, just under $300. Oklahoma, Michigan, $275. Florida State, Alabama, $119. Oregon and USC, $120. And then Colorado, Georgia Tech early on, $90. Those are the games, and those are the ticket prices. So here are 4 other games. And Craig, those games for those first 2 games, my God, just 2 huge emotional games. And obviously Ohio State, Texas, and LSU Ole Miss might have national playoff implications too. TCU, North Carolina, and Ireland, $245. West Virginia in Charlotte to play the Cavaliers, $33. Baylor, Auburn, and Atlanta, $105. And then Boise State, Oregon, a color scheme game at $98 right now. That's the ticket price. That's what those prices are going for.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of nice games early on. The color schemes for Boise State and Oregon might be absolutely atrocious. I'm not sure what they've settled on just yet. But, I mean, that Ireland ticket price, that's just for a ticket and then also the travel over there. So you're spending big bucks to watch that game over in Ireland. $245 seems like a hell of a lofty price when most, 99% of people going over there are already traveling and spending the money to do that. So I don't know what that accounts for. Being that expensive, other than it's an overseas game, but my goodness, that's a lot of money for a pretty good team and a team that I don't know what the hell they're going to be by any stretch. They might be a team without a head coach halfway through the season, North Carolina, but it's a very intriguing game, at least initially. Baylor Auburn, I'm intrigued by that one. Neutral site, so Auburn can make some NIL money. Not too bad for $100. And can we go back to that first one? West Virginia is a very intriguing game. Mountaineers can win that one. That would be a really big deal for Rich Rod and a really nice way to kind of put them on a path towards maybe winning 6 or 7 games. But, yeah, I mean, if I could go to any game here, it'd be those top 2. The only game I don't see listed that – I mean, there's a lot of other big games, but the one that I feel like would be a pretty pricey ticket would be BYU Notre Dame.
Well, somebody asked about that, and I give them credit, but the tickets are not yet currently available on Ticketmaster.
Okay, well, that's why.
But I got a feeling that's going to be in the $300 to $600 range before it's said and done.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a very hot ticket, BYU and Notre Dame and Provo. So, there's a little bit more of a ways to go. That's not right at the beginning of the season, so that's probably why that's not released just yet. But I'm very interested to see what that looks like when it's released. And LSU, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Texas, I mean, the build for these 2 games has been going on for months, but especially that LSU, Ole Miss game, not surprised at all to see that people are are forking over big time dough to be in attendance for that one, because that's going to be a very unique and special atmosphere, and then should be a hell of a game as well. But in general, with all the backstory, that is one of the juiciest matchups on paper that we are in store for, and cannot wait to see what that looks like here in a few weeks.
Yeah, so LSU, Ole Miss, and then Ohio State, Texas, and yes, Notre Dame and BYU. That's going to be an alpha game too. You hope it is. And just right now, they're not sure because it's not actually available. They're not actually available online. So there we are with some ticket prices. Thanks to Trey for sharing that. Now, Sam Kahn will join us today. I mentioned Mike Scarborough today. We'll also have Ari Temkin today. And Sam Spiegelman, who covers college, high school football recruiting, is going to join us. Thought we'd get him on as the season is about to start. Yes, sir?
Are we in between stories here?
I
mean, before we get into another one, are we in between stories?
Yeah, the next one is one we can use. I hope we can use it before we get to Sam, but we don't have to.
Okay. How about we introduce the Iowa State helmet again now, rather than interject it in the middle of the LSU story?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very much. This is awesome. We have, and you see on the whole set, we have UCF, and by the way, Knights fans, UCF is going to be sending us a new one with the new color scheme as far as the helmet. KU and Lance Leipold sent that directly to me and us for the show. This is from Iowa State. We have the Baylor one, which Brent Ingram brought in we had a little get-together about a week ago. He brought that. The Nebraska one's from Matt Rule. Texas Tech, that's another one. And then we have a 365. And there's a couple of other, Houston, I think, and West Virginia are other ones. But thank you to Iowa State for sending the helmet. We have missed that one. We got a mini helmet, but we did not have that one, and so now we do.
Is Angry Tech Grandpa watching me right now?
God.
Don't GIF this. Don't GIF this.
Turn it sideways. Why aren't you showing the Tech?
Angry Tech Grandpa is going to love this GIF.
Old man, Texas Tech man old. There we go.
Thank you to Iowa State.
So let's see. Kansas State's going to want to know what theirs is, TCU, and we've asked for those too.
I wanted to make sure we properly address the Iowa State helmet as opposed to how you attempted to do it initially, because it is cool they sent that over, and appreciate them doing that. We've had some good conversations with Jamie Pollard. Appreciate Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders as well, as they and Nebraska and all the other ones you pointed out have been so kind to pass these along and help us decorate our area here. So, great to have the Iowa State edition amongst the others that we've accumulated here, and looks good. Like that look here in the studio. So appreciate them doing that. And I'm just having fun with Texas Tech old grandpa from a couple of weeks ago. So don't GIF that, Garrett.
Yeah,
don't
old
GIF
Texas Tech man is talking about temperatures. Hey, state of Texas, if you all got rain, send it to Oklahoma. It's 105, feels like 114. Rain, come back. We need you. But he didn't mention anything about the Texas Tech. There you go, Rez. Thank you for scanning the studio set. I'm going to take a picture of all of them, and then I send it out to the SIDs, and some of them aren't going to have time to do that. Or maybe it's like these helmets are expensive, but we do have the new one now with the Cyclones. All right. Now, there's always been the argument, who is the greatest single season college football team all time? And I have always deferred to, because especially with what they fed into the NFL, the 2001 Miami Hurricanes or 95 Nebraska. There are other teams that absolutely are in the conversation. I mentioned even 2019 and LSU and Joe Burrow. Sporting news. Bill Bender, who joined us, a few weeks ago. He and how many others? Here's the image of the top 20 all time. This is not mine. This is from the Sporting News. Top 20 all-time single-season college football teams. And, in fact, there's at number 3, LSU. There's the Vince Young, Texas, at number 4, and on and on and on. So there we are. Miami has 3 mentions. Oklahoma has 2. Alabama has 2. Nebraska has 2. And USC has 2 at number 5 and also number 7. So there we are with the top 20. What they did, just like you have AP and coaches polls, etc., here's how the voting turned out. They have the actual voting from what were numerous writers at the Sporting News. Do we have that graphic, Rez? Here we are. So there we are. The year, the votes, and all the way down from 1 through even 25 as they extended it past number 20 Miami. And they accumulate them just like you do in the AP or the coaches poll. And that is how the top 25 plus were ranked based on votes. And I mean, look, the first place votes were all very, very close in the end. Craig? I've always kind of deferred to 0-1 Miami. I have, but those are all the same teams that we've had in the conversation.
I think it's a two-team race, although I do feel like 2019 LSU has gained a lot of ground, and some of that I'm sure is recency bias, just that they're a lot of a much more newer team than the other ones they're being compared to by nearly 15 years. So they are definitely the school that is most relatable at this point in time for most people, from young to old. Whereas some of these others, 20-year-olds don't know jack squat about 95 Nebraska from a experienced it standpoint, nor do I know jack squat about 74 Oklahoma, other than what I've read in history books and things like that or seen on YouTube videos. So, I think a wide swath of people, young to old. This is about how I would expect it would pan out. And I think it's pretty clear based on the version of this that comes out from some outlet every single year at this time, whether it's Sporting News or ESPN or whoever, that 95 Nebraska and 0-1 Miami are undoubtedly two of the top three greatest teams of all time. And I do think that 19 LSU snuck into the conversation because of just how good and dynamic and jaw-droppingly fun they were. And, they were great. They just rolled through people. Texas was very, very good and obviously had the greatest national championship game win of all time as far as the drama and the pageantry and everything that came with that. I mean, if you were to draw up like your picture-perfect college football national championship game, I don't think you could have done any better than two massive programs like that from different parts of the country in the Rose Bowl at night. Only thing missing was the sunset while Vince Young crossed the plane, basically. But, you couldn't have drawn that up to be any more dramatic. So, I think that makes sense that Texas is in that conversation. And then, beyond that, it's just a gaggle of teams. But, for me, it's Nebraska or Miami. I do open my mind to 19 LSU, even though I know, like, as you get older, you're kind of more hesitant to give the credit to the younger. Oh, it's not quite the same as different this or different that, but this was pre-NIL. This was before all hell broke loose. This was the tail end of the old way of college football, and LSU was about as good as we'd ever seen. So, that top three, that top five, and you could go farther. I mean, they're all great teams, obviously, being on this list, but that's pretty rock solid. I mean, I could definitely hear somebody out and say that 0-1 Miami belongs on top. And I'm sure one of the first things that will be said is the number of NFL draft picks and the Hall of Famers and all of that. And you know what? I won't argue with you. But if you want to say it's 95 Nebraska, I won't argue with you. I think they have a case as well. If you want to say 19 LSU, I really won't argue with that either. So, I think that's about where I would have it as well. And I think that's where the majority of people would have it, as the majority of voters did.
Nebraska averaged won every game by 14 points or more. Just a monstrous team. Hammered Florida. And then Miami, of course, hammered Nebraska in the championship game when the Huskers had already been blown out by Colorado. Should not have been the one playing against Miami, but they were the ones fed to the Wolves.
I will say I can't comment on 71 Nebraska. I know they were really good, but I just don't. I don't have any real basis to talk about them. I do find it interesting that Texas 05 got 4 first-place votes because they were great. They were amazing. They had, like I just said a moment ago, the greatest stage for a national championship game of all time, and I didn't even mention the talk going into that with the back-to-back Heisman winners and the national titles that they had been winning right before that and just rolling on along. USC was the cream of the crop, and then Texas took it to them, and it turned out to be one of the all-time great games, period, much less a national championship game. But 4 first-place votes, I don't think of them immediately when I think of the greatest team of all time. If you say the greatest national championship game of all time, I think of that. If you say the greatest ending of all time, I think of Texas. If you say one of the greatest players of all time, I think of Vince Young and that play at the end. But if you say one of the greatest teams, they were really, really good. I just personally don't think of them in the same breath as 95 Nebraska and 0-1 Miami, but I certainly understand those that do.
Some that might, because they beat a team that was trying to win three
Right.
straight in a team that no one could beat in USC. The thing about 71 Nebraska, the only note is, and I've always number 1 that year, Nebraska. Number 2 that year, Oklahoma. Number 3 that year was Colorado. All from the Big 8. They were all 3, 1, 2, and 3. Alabama ended up 4th, and Nebraska beat them in the Orange Bowl to win it with Johnny Rodgers and company. All right, when we come back, Sam Conn. Anything else, Craig, you want to feed into the opening?
Do you disagree with that do you think of Texas 05? Like,
I was not surprised. I was surprised they were that high. But when you really start, like you said, best ever championship game, there's maybe 2 or 3 others that could be in the same conversation, but no question. The drama of what that game, Vince Young having the 4th and 1 stop and then beating a team that was, no one's won 3 in a row since like the 50s or 40s or whatever, as Minnesota. So that was also on the line.
No,
too.
I totally get it. I saw those 4 first place votes, and so
yeah, that's
there's
it.
clearly
very respectable.
Several people that think that they are better than 0-1 Miami or better than 95 Nebraska, and I won't go that far, but top 5 of all time, yeah, absolutely.
I think Vince Young probably gives them a little bit more oomph, even above what normally.
Well, I mean, if it's the most majestic national championship win of all time, then they're number 1 by a long shot. And I'm not trying to discredit them. I was curious of how you thought about that, because they did get a handful of first place votes. So yeah, I definitely think they belong in the top 5. I've just always kind of considered it a 2-team race, 95 Nebraska, 0-1 Miami. And then here recently, I do think because of just how they did it, 19 LSU does belong in the conversation as well. But you know what? Texas went unscathed that year. They had, a couple games maybe that were close and maybe sketchy for a few minutes, but they rolled through a lot of teams, and Vince Young was
They beat Colorado badly in the Big 12 championship game.
They had every argument, too, NFL draft picks and, I mean, all that jazz.
Outscored their teams like 60-20 or something.
So anyways,
like
that was just something I was curious how you felt about that. But yeah, I don't have a problem with them being exactly where they were. I just wondered if most people think of them in the same breath as 0-1 Miami, 95 Nebraska, and
they beat
and now
the 2-time
19 LSU.
champions. But also remember, that's the game when they won in Columbus. It set up, as Mac Brown's told us, it set them up because they were going to be unchallenged after that. They were never challenged other than Ohio State in that second game of the year, and then USC. All right, when we come back, Sam Conn, theathletic.com. He's always been with us when he's available, like 3:30 on Thursdays. He's here recorded today, and because of kids growing up a little bit, his schedule on Thursday afternoons a little bit different. He's going to continue to be on with us, but a little bit later on in the show. So his conversation is next. This is 365 Sports and the Smoke Show. Dr. Kent Petty, PettyClinicLowT.com, can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. What does all that mean? As you get older, your testosterone level can decrease. It can start to drop, and that's part of father time. Some people have high blood pressure and some don't. And sometimes you create that yourself based on how you live your life and what you do. But some people have, unfortunately, even other issues that are sometimes hereditary, and some people don't. Low T can happen. And when it does, you'll notice, because you're just not the same. You're lethargic. Your eating habits change. Your sleep habits can change. Your sex drive is not good. And even that's if you can have the ability to be, sexually active. So Low T can do that to you. Dr. Petty can set you up to get your blood work. He'll get the results. Contact them, PettyClinicLowT.com. Once again, they will set you up to get your blood work. Look at the results, and if your results are fine, he'll tell you. If they're not, he'll give you the option and a program so you can be a part of it and get yourself back together again. Be the man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Broker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get summer ready in a new Jeep Wrangler Sport. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or just $33,848. Want more truck and more fun? Check out the 2026 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or save $10,000. Take the top off and hit the road. Alan Samuels Jeep.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Smoak.
CamConTheAthletic.com. It is con time with me, and I can't wait for there to be actual evidence and stats and players and whatever. Teams that's supposed to win that win or don't.
Oh, I'm so psyched to overreact to North Carolina TCU on Saturday afternoon, August 29th, because I know we all will one way or another, however it turns out. But yeah, I think we get 8 games on that first Saturday, and I really can't wait because it's the first results, because we'll actually get some Power 4 teams. We'll get North Carolina TCU, we'll get NC State Virginia, you'll see a little bit of Florida State, a little Stanford, a little USC. We'll even get the night game, after dark game is Memphis and UNLV, which will be kind of fun. Jackson Arnold over UNLV with Dan Mullen, and Memphis with a new coach, Charles Huff, and a lot of new players over there. So, and then after that, of course, we get the full week in week 1, where you get a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You get 5 days of college football. So I'm very glad we're almost here, and I feel like we're mostly talking about football at this point. Obviously, I know there's still some lingering discussions about legislation and all that, but for the most part, we're focused on the ball. I knew when we saw Cam Coleman go viral on social media for that catch, and we were talking about football, I knew we were here. Yeah. We're seeing the practice clips and practice reports scrolling through the timeline, and that means that we're just about there, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't either. And we've been asking guests. We probably have asked you as well. But just the best storylines. Is there, besides the games and a part of the games and games being played, in your opinion, what are the top 2 to 3 that first weekend or two storylines that you're interested in?
Yeah, I think the first couple of weekends, I'm really, first of all, I think we talked about North Carolina TCU. Everything that's happened in North Carolina, I think, is interesting right now with the wake of the Lombardi investigation and Bill Belichick going into second year. I think that's really something that people watch. And I think TCU is a team that kind of people have slept on a little bit to some degree. So I that to me is something that I'm going to be watching. Baylor Auburn is one of the better kickoff games in the proper week one and the full week one. Obviously, that one's in Mercedes-Benz, but I'm really interested in that because we're going to get our first look at DJ Lagway, and at Baylor, we're going to get our first look at Byron Brown and Alex Galesh at Auburn and what that's going to look like. So I'm curious to see how that goes. And of course, you have a lot of the other big teams playing. Not necessarily the big opponents. I guess we get to LSU Clemson early. That'll be interesting. Louisville Ole Miss will be a little bit interesting. So you get some interesting games. I think SMU is playing on the opening weekend as well. That's going to be. I think they're playing the Monday night game against Florida State, so that'll be interesting as well. So mostly, I don't know that I'm looking to take away a lot because the first week isn't as packed in terms of huge consequential matchups, but I think there's going to be a lot to take away. And then I think when we move into week 2, you're going to start to see a little bit more of the more juggernaut matchups that we'll look at. But even I'll throw out Colorado, Georgia Tech on that first Thursday. I'm interested in on September 3rd. That'll be an interesting one. Brett Key obviously brought in Alberto Mendoza and Justice Haynes. Colorado, a whole lot of new players around Juju Lewis and new offensive coordinator Brendan Marion. So just lots of really interesting stuff. I'm really looking to find out a lot of things about a lot of these teams in the early going.
Yeah, me too. And of course, the transfer portal makes that very interesting. A few of the incoming freshmen that might and probably will make an impact too at some of these schools. How much will Texas and Ohio State week 2 set the tone for the year for either one of those teams, or is that one of those as long as it's close? And it's not like 31-6 one way or the other. Both of them are going to be just fine. They just move on.
Yeah, I think it is going to set a tone to some degree. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be because of all the talk about it before the season and all the discourse about it at the end last year. Steve Sarkisian, I think, set a little bit of a tone with it about getting penalized for losing to Ohio State on the road and why they didn't make the playoff. And I don't think that's necessarily it's not 100% false, but I also think it's a little bit disingenuous because losing to Ohio State is not why Texas didn't make the playoff. Losing at and looking very substandard against Mississippi State and Kentucky and really playing a subpar brand of ball for most of the first 8 weeks of the season is the reason why Texas didn't make the playoff, not because they happened to lose a game at Ohio State in the first week. I understand his argument that if they go 10-2, they're probably in. But I think that's more of an indictment on the system than it is on and the selection process than it is what his team or what the criticism of it was. But I'm afraid that we're going to set too many narratives from that game because of all the focus on the playoff. I just want to see really two good teams play because I'm fascinated to see what Arch Manning looks like early this season. In the first few weeks, because last year we know he started really rough and then he ended really strong. I'm curious to see, does he pick up where he left off at the end of the year? And does this, for lack of a better term, super team that Texas has built around him, are they going to live up to it? Because all the money they spent and all the transfers they got, you got this to win these types of games and go win a national championship. So to me, it's more of a must win for Texas because you're at home and you put all this into the season. And if you don't win this game, then I think it raises some questions. But I think Ohio State is fascinating too. Julian Sand, I think, obviously really good season last year, but I think there's some questions. He didn't look the greatest against Indiana and at the end of the season. And we talked to a lot of coaches and scouts who some of them believe he's maybe the second best quarterback in the country. And some think maybe he's just a good player that's got a lot of talent around him that manages the game well. I'm curious to see how much of a step he takes in his development. Of course, this is fifth down the list, but we get to see the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith, and I'm not going to take that for granted at all because he's incredible to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing him and Cam Coleman on the same field at the same time, or I should say on the same field on the same day together because those two guys are both, I think, going to be top 10 picks next year. So a lot of talent, a lot of future NFL talent, and I think it will set a tone from a playoff standpoint, and I think it's going to tell us a lot about what these teams look like early in the season and what we could be seeing from them the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And they've had some historic games in the past when Texas won their last national title, which broke a 35-year drought in 2005. They won in Columbus. Next year, Ohio State won. And then, of course, the playoff game a couple of years ago when they had the sack fumble with Ewers. And then last year, as you said, early in the year when it just seemed like it was still a close game, but that Texas and Ohio State's defense was really good. Let me ask you this, and this is going to go back a long time. So maybe not a fair question, but maybe does it make sense? But up until the playoff began, which was 14, so not too far back, just plus 10 years. Did we always look at a game in week 1, 2, or 3 against what I call alphas and bangers, or just a really good matchup? Did we immediately start talking about the impact that had on playing for a national championship like we do now with a playoff?
I think just with the very top teams. I think when you got to the top 5 or who you anticipated being a contender, and obviously it was much smaller because you only had 2 teams playing in the BCS for the championship. We weren't talking about, this is going to impact their New Year's Six Bowl chances. I mean, because also those were guaranteed by conference championships that the power conferences got their automatic berths. And so long as you won your conference, then that's where it fit in. I think we became fixated on the playoff when the playoff came. And I think the coverage of the sport has influenced that to a great degree as well. And not to blame ESPN, certainly they play a role in it, but I think the way they unveil the playoff and the way they cover it ad nauseum throughout the year hasn't really helped that discourse. I think it really makes it to where it feels like the playoff is the thing, where to me, as someone who covers the sport and has watched sport for a long time, I'm interested in a lot of things beyond the playoff. The playoff actually may be the least interesting part of it to me, at least when we get toward the end of it. I mean, I love the football itself. Like, I love watching the games. Don't get me wrong. I was actually going back and watching a little bit of Ole Miss and Georgia the other day, watching Trinidad Chambliss run around and thinking about how incredible he was that day. But to me, yeah, I think the playoff era in 2014 shifted how we think of the sport from a season-long perspective. And I'll never forget, I think a couple of years after that, maybe 2016, 2017, you would see a Pac-12 team lose early in the season, a big game that a top 5 or top 10 team in that conference would. And then people would say, oh, well, there goes the Pac-12's chance at a playoff. And I really never liked that framing. I didn't like how we talked about that. And I still don't love how we talk about that when it comes to these teams. But it's kind of the reality where we are now. Everybody's kind of focused on the postseason. But I still think there's a lot to take away from the sport beyond that, and that's how I try to watch and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. And then we talk about how college football has the best regular season, right? I mean, they have the best regular season. There's always a concern about, does any of this take away from it? I don't know. We'll have to. It's like anything else. I just wish we'd let where they are now at 12 teams breathe. I wish we would be able to see more than, just a couple of years. I'd like to see it. There were decades where there was no playoff, and then there was the BCS in 98, I guess it was. And then, of course, the playoff in 2014. And it just seemed like we're rushing to the finish line. And we had John Wiltner on yesterday, and he said that if they expand this playoff too much, and they'll know, if they expand it too much, you can't go back. It's like impossible. You can't go in reverse and go backwards. Sam, when I don't know how much you've been watching some of the interviews with Kalani Sitake at BYU, and there are some rumblings in Provo. It could be more just message board fodder, but I've talked to a couple of people who cover BYU. The Kalani is still making sure that BYU does not forget why he stayed and when he went and looked at Penn State. Is there, and he's he's the nicest guy maybe on earth, but there is a thought that there's some friction with Brian Santiago, the AD, or is it, again, just speculation? How much of that do you think affects BYU, if at all?
I don't think it affects them on the field, just because the team is the team right now, the roster's set, and they're going to be one of the best teams in their conference. They're going to be a real playoff contender. And I think they're going to have a really good year. I think it impacts them beyond this year because everybody's looking to get the most resources possible to add players to their roster and contend for a championship. And in the Big 12, the game is try to keep up with Texas Tech. And we know how difficult that is. And I think it's Kalani Sitake's in a position where he just signed a big contract to stay. He's just taken them to back-to-back double-digit win seasons. He's had a really good run there since he's been there and taken them into the Big 12 pretty seamlessly. And it's a chance to use your leverage. Everybody loves him. He's got a really good football team. He's got a really bright outlook there. This is the time to cash that in. And it's kind of hard to ask for resources when you're struggling and they're like, well, they don't like the job you're doing. When you're doing a good job, that's when you ask for as much as you can get, because let's be honest, Texas Tech's not stopping anytime soon. They're going to keep being aggressive. Their boosters and their donor class has made it clear that they're willing to do whatever it takes. And they're pushing the Big 12, the top of the Big 12 up in terms of the financial arms race. And so it's up to other programs to try to keep up with that. And BYU wants to, clearly, I think has at least some capacity to try to do that, because I think you would say right behind Texas Tech is BYU, ahead of everybody else in the conference in terms of resources from building a roster. But the name of the game is getting players. It's player acquisition. Do you have the guys or not? Because you can coach all day, every day, but if you don't have better players than the guys on the other side, it's really hard to win week in and week out, which is what it takes to get to the playoffs.
I saw something earlier, maybe in the week, about villains, and of course Texas Tech. There's an article about, and Joey and them being quoted about they cherish the role. I'm not so sure you really do. I think sometimes that can just get to be. I think, and I know Joey, and I think sometimes that can kind of. The University of Miami, back in the early 90s, they loved that. I mean, they loved being the bad boys, et cetera. They thrived off that. But I do think it could kind of sometimes even wear you out. Sam, but it's been quiet. Hammond's back. He's practicing. They're going about their business. Not a lot on them. And all of whatever that was, the first 6 to 7 months of the year has disappeared. It may not when they go out and play a game on the road or whatever, but it seems to be business now as usual in Lubbock. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think other than the little bit of noise about the non-conference scheduling because they're trying to find an opponent, but other than that, I think the focus is on the ball, and they're going to be a really good football team, I think, again this year. Are they going to be quite as good as last year? I don't know. I think I still do have some question marks on the defensive line in terms of not of the talent they brought in. I think they brought really good talent in, but I think it's hard to hit the level of guy that they got last year. To get another David Bailey, to get another Lee Hunter, to get another Romello Height, or Trey White, and Adam Trick going to be those caliber of edge rushers. I don't know. We'll have to see. I think they're both really talented guys in their previous stops. And so it's a question. It's just a matter of time to see do they play out. But I think the Hammond question, they're really, again, health was the only question with him. There was really never a question about ability with him. I know some people are skeptical saying that, hey, they're just getting behind Will Hammond because Sorsby didn't work out. I don't think that's the case. I mean, when Hammond first got there, I remember talking to someone over there when he was a true freshman who told me that they thought Will Hammond may end up having a Graham Harrell type career there at Texas Tech. Like, that's how good they felt about him 2 years ago when he was first getting on campus. I don't think much has changed about that. It's just a matter of can they get him through 12 games healthy. But you look at the rest of the roster, I think they've got a lot of good returning talent on the offensive line. They've got a really loaded backfield with, of course, Dickey and Jacoby Williams back and Quentin Joyner's healthy again, which I think is really huge for them. So they're going to be loaded back there. They've got talented receivers. Quay Aiken's back. Micah Hudson has caught a little bit of buzz in the preseason, and then on defense, we mentioned the defensive line. Ben Roberts is back at linebacker. They've got, John Curry out there too. They've got really talented players there. Austin Romaine, the transfer they got from Kansas State. So you just look up and down the roster, and it is the best roster in the Big 12, and it is a team that you expect to get back to the postseason. And I think the schedule is not daunting. They certainly have a challenge early with Houston in week 3, but I think I don't think anybody inside Lubbock or outside Lubbock expects anything less than them getting back to the postseason and winning the Big 12.
I know you did that big feature with Antonio, the one on quarterbacks, 130 whatever programs, FBS, et cetera. What are you working on now that you can at least give us an idea what's coming up next from you?
I'll just say another big long list.
Oh, okay.
That's about as much as I can give you.
Yeah.
Another one of those, and then obviously we're doing some of our preseason prediction stuff here that we'll have to turn in here in the next week or two, get our last predictions in for the season and things like that. And then just a few stories on a few programs and players, coming up here in the next few weeks as we get closer. So we're almost there. I'm trying to bang out some things for the next 3, 4, or 5 days and bang out as much as I can and hopefully sneak away for a few days off next week before week 0 gets here. So
yeah, I think I'm going to try to take like that extended long 3-day weekend. By the way, just for our audience, Sam comes on with us most every Thursday. We're going to be moving him back later in the show, 4:30 or 5 on Thursday. So we'll have that information coming up pretty soon. Have a great rest of your week, my friend, and thanks for your time. Mike.com with us on Thursdays. When we come back, Mike Scarborough with what's going on in Baton Rouge, LSU, Jaden Daniels, and more. Is this going to die quickly in the next 12 to 15 or 40 hours? I don't know. That plus Ari Temkin joins us in the next hour. Craig's off the radar. This is 365 Sports. Do you have pain in your knees, your shoulders, hip, back, other joints that just the pain won't go away? Check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief, not just kicking the can down the road, not for a quick fix, non-surgical regenerative medicine treatments using your own natural healing power and free consultation. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. I have been with QC Kinetics since September of last year. After 4.5 to 5 years of an annoying, sometimes aching and throbbing pain in my right hip, it's gone. QC Kinetics can deal with the pain, bone on bone, arthritis, torn meniscus, years of wear and tear. And they can do it with regenerative medicine that is inside of your body. Regenerative treatments from what is inside your body. Platelets, plasma, stem cells, bone marrow, inside your body, and taking that and putting it back inside of you, drawing your blood, spinning it, putting it where it hurts, whether it's your shoulder or for me was my hip. An idea in case there is starting to be chatter that you're going to need surgery, that you're going to need a procedure. Before you do that, contact QC Kinetics in Houston or Dallas. Here are the numbers on the screen. Dallas 972-972-8610. Houston 713-913-5285. Those are the numbers to call and tell them I sent you. And also, when you call them, make sure you ask because it's going to be a free consultation. They'll go over all of it, what might happen as far as the schedule and the treatment and everything else, and it's going to work for you. I know because my pain and all of that every day waking up is gone. Running, did 4 miles today. I'll do 4 miles tomorrow. I want you to get over the pain. I did because I got so sick and tired of it. I contacted them, went over a free consultation, and treatment started right away. It works. It's worked for me, and I really was on the point I was about to give up. So don't give up. Here's what you do. Please contact QC Kinetics. Again, the numbers to call on the screen, 972-972-8610, 713-913-5285. It has worked for me. It will work for you at QCkinetics.com.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Celebrate American value and American quality during the Red, White, and Blue sales event at Richard Car. You want a Richard Car GMC? Get your Sierra now and save $13,000 or more on every truck in stock with trade-in. Save $14,000 on a 2026 GMC Sierra SLE Crew Cab. Or save $13,500 on a 2026 GMC Sierra Pro, now under $29,000. Drive American quality and get American savings during the Red, White, and Blue sales event at Richard Car.
Richard Car, they have the truck for you.
Marco's only uses premium toppings, which means your pizza isn't just flavorful, it's mushroom-full, or sausage-full, or pepperoni-full. And you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas from the place named America's favorite pizza chain starting at $8.99 every day, only at Marco's.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Smoak.
Here we go, this 4 o'clock hour, and we're joined by Mike Scarborough. TigerBait.com covers like a blanket LSU football, and all of a sudden today, they're good. We know about that with Kiffin and company, but today, because of the Jaden Daniels drama, we went over it earlier in the show to start off the show. Mike Scarborough joins us in just a second. We got him. He joins us now on 365 Sports. Mike, thank you. You're on with both me. Craig's here as well. What in God's name did you wake up to this morning? We got you?
Got me now?
Yep, we do. We do.
All right, good. I can hear you.
What did you wake up to this morning, my friend?
Well, we knew it was going to be a long day because we had practice, Kiffin, and 4 players. But then the Jaden Daniels stuff took center stage. And, you know, what's funny was DJ Pickett, who, of course, is wearing the number 5, was scheduled to meet with us. And because he's, new into the program, this will be his second season and not very seasoned, I guess. I think they were maybe contemplating about substituting another player for him. But Pickett said, no, let's get it over with. And he went out and pulled the Band-Aid off and addressed it. But we're also seeing where Jaden Daniels and his mom and so forth are backing off a bit. I think my hunch is 90% of this is not Jaden Daniels. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it seems like, Mike, a lot of people pointed immediately to his mother, and I know you're going to leave it at that, but as somebody who followed LSU pretty closely, I mean, Jaden Daniels, and now following him in Washington the last couple of years, doesn't seem like a big drama guy to me. So when I saw all this going on, I was like, this is not Jaden Daniels. Like, what the hell's happening right here?
No, he's not. And look, I think it's probably everybody wants to say, oh, there's issues on both sides, and this could have been handled better. And I agree with a lot of that. But poor communication, promise that was made by Brian Kelly that now Lane Kiffin's holding the bag for. But LSU passed a rule about 20 years ago where they don't retire jerseys anymore. You'll get, in the Ring of Honor, Burt Jones is going in the Ring of Honor. The number 7 is given out. Tommy Casanova. Right now, only number 20, Billy Cannon, is the only number that has not been worn. And since he won the Heisman. And I want to say there was a year or two soon after he won the Heisman where someone wore the 20 for LSU. So you can make an argument probably that the number 20 should be taken out of retirement because you need numbers. Every football team in the country has, two players on their team that are wearing the same number, one guy on defense and another guy on offense. At a school like LSU and others, whether it's Texas, Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, storied programs that have had multiple Heisman winners and All-Americans and storied football players. You just can't go around doing that. So I hope they get it worked out because I really like Jayden Daniels, and I don't want this tarnishing his legacy or the way the fan base feels about him, and vice versa.
Right. No, exactly. And there's a big difference, right, between a jersey being retired and a number being retired as well. Like there's also a clarification there, but he just seems his side just in general doesn't want 5 being worn. But how did you feel Pickett handled it? And then also with Lane Kiffin, you would almost have thought he was, based on a clip we saw, answering questions about some massive scandal rather than something that's probably going to blow over. But I guess why did he feel the need probably to be kind of careful about what he said, you think?
I think probably because they're LSU's trying to get a handle on it. And I know folks in the Jayden Daniels camp have reached out to us at tigerbait.com within the last hour. And we're going to have a report later this evening. So a former LSU staffer that was on Brian Kelly's staff is close to Jayden and his inner circle, and he's actually there with them right now. And I think that's kind of the go-between. So I hopefully they get some of this resolved and some of this gets pulled back because the memes have been swift and relentless.
Yes.
Mike, I have never – I don't know if I've ever seen anything negative ever about Jayden Daniels. Did he?
Man, he's a great kid. He's a great kid. Love him. He's very soft-spoken. He's always been a great interview. He's not a big extrovert. I wouldn't call him an extrovert, but he goes about his business. He worked hard. The transformation from his junior year to his senior year, which is a similar tract of Joe Burrow from year 3 to 4 or junior to senior year. Both of them won Heisman's that way. And so he's a great kid. And I don't want this. I think anybody that knows him doesn't want anything to hurt him. And look, man, you want those guys in 20, 30 years to be able to come back to LSU on game day and get honored between quarters, and they're getting spotted in the stadium and the camera putting them up on the big screen. You want those guys to experience all that for many years after they retire from football. And I don't want anything less than that for Jayden Daniels because he deserves it. Unfortunately for him, LSU never had a defense to go with his abilities. Had they had a defense last year, or even if they would have had just an average defense his senior year, LSU could have won a title.
Mike, somehow Joe Burrow just woke up today and is even more of an LSU legend than he was already, and he's pretty big for an LSU legend. He didn't even have to do anything. He's already just being propped up because of a result of this. But I know they've got the 5 years that you have to be removed from competition to get honored. So Burrow's past that at this point. Jayden Daniels will be there in a couple years. What's the logjam look like? Because as you point out, you can't retire numbers because LSU would have no numbers left to use on anybody practically. But what does like the logjam of honoring players look like currently at LSU right now?
I want to see the bylaws on that because I think it goes beyond NFL. I don't think is it 5 years post pro.
Yeah,
I don't think it's 5. I don't think it's 5 years pro post college.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it would be.
Because everybody's talking about how Cam Newton got a statue within a few years at Auburn,
right?
And I'm like, man, that to me that's risky. Yeah. I don't think it's risky for Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, but maybe for Cam Newton, it might have been.
Oh God! Yeah, but like Shedeur got retired. I think like in the middle of his last semester in Colorado, there were a lot of people that had blowback about that. His number was retired in Boulder. Do you think?
Are y'all following this? We were talking about it while we were waiting for Kiffin. What's going on in Colorado? And the media not being able to report anything? Have you seen this?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit with Trey Wallace yesterday, and he actually seemed to think that it was kind of okay because you have seen maybe some of the coverage of practices go overboard a little bit. But at the same time, the way he was explaining it, he kind of seemed it was okay, but also like they're towing that line of it being like very dictatorial, certainly, and kind of preventing what's allowed and what's not allowed at practices. So, I think we need to let it maybe breathe a little bit more to know whether it's a big bad thing. It's kind of like, oh, it's Deion, so we all react to it. But based on Trey's response, he kind of cooled me down on thinking it was a bigger deal than it was.
Yeah, because look, we're getting access with Lane Kiffin that we didn't think we were going to get because he didn't give any access at Ole Miss to the media, and we've been going to every practice so far. Now we're only getting 2 or 3 periods, which is enough for us to get a little bit of video and take roll. Yeah. But now if he were to say, you know what, we're going to have a scrimmage Saturday, and you're all welcome to come, but you can't report on it, you can't say what all that, I would understand it. I would understand that.
I heard that at Cowboys training camp, the Cowboys want everybody to take every piece of video they can. And Jerry's always been, how he is about publicity. But their new defensive coordinator is not happy about it and shut down cameras one day in the afternoon or morning. And the Cowboys media mafia, they weren't happy because they're used to having freedom. And he shut down the cameras. And the next time they were at practice that afternoon or whenever, they were allowed to film the video because I got a feeling that Christian Parker had a talk with Jerry Jones.
Oh, man, look, last year I'm filming the spring game, and by the way, this was like a week to 10 days later. The special teams coach under Brian Kelly reaches out to me asking me to pull down a certain section of my video, which had been up for YouTube for over a week. I'm like, man, it's gone. I mean, it's like you guys did it. You put it out there. The media were there. How could you not know? If there was, some lineup or some way you did something, a wrinkle that you didn't want anybody to see, why on earth would you do that in a spring game when you allowed fans in, all with cell phones?
Yeah, no, it's weird how schools now are trying to kind of control the narrative a lot more. It feels like almost like state media to a degree, and there's got to be some level of independence still that exceeds everything else because you got to have independence and the proper reporting to all state media. But it does feel like schools are kind of trying to do that. So yeah, the Deion thing, Trey backed me off of thinking it was a big deal, but I can still see where people, especially people in our background, yeah, it's great to go to practice, but I can't write notes. Like, I mean, I can't take a single picture. It's kind of strange.
Well, look, I mean, if you've been doing it long enough, you know that, well, you can't say what you saw,
right?
But all of a sudden, a week from now, when someone asks you a question, you're able to give an opinion. And your opinion is based on background.
Yep.
And that's background. So now you're not going to say, I saw a Statue of Liberty play and they did a double end around and, in practice. And
who threw the pass?
Yeah.
You can't say. Can't say.
Who threw the pass? What number? Tight end, H-back, fullback that was
we're not seeing all that. I told somebody, I said, look, if you're a media guy and you predicted LSU to go 9-3 season, there is nothing that you're going to see in the time allotted us in the media to go from 9-3 to 10-2, or for you're at 10-2 to go to 11-1 or whatever, or go the other way. Unless you see a rash of injuries, then you'll go the other way.
Oh, and yeah, there's a time where I was at every practice around here and then time conflicts, but there was also not just the time conflict. It was me realizing I'm just watching you stretch every day and I don't see really anything more than that. And it's kind of hard to take things sometimes, but yeah, Deion's doing it his way and we'll see how it works.
Well, a lot of us in the media like to say, you know what? I have perfect attendance and I do. And so that way you can point to your competitor or wherever, or you really get a kick out of it when some of your media peers all have opinions, but they've never been seen at practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, this Jaden Daniels thing was a big deal. I think, and I said this at the start of the show, because it's August 13th and it's not August 30th, because if it was August 30th, it would be a story for like 5 minutes and then it would probably be over with. But it like hit at the right time to just be a big deal on this particular day. So that's going to blow over and they'll figure it all out, I'm sure. But as far as covering,
I think it was Matt Hayes. Someone was reading me the tweet that he had today. And it was the best tweet of all. It was something like, for Jaden Daniels to do this and to think, if anything LSU's proven in the last 6 to 8 months is that they don't give a damn. You know, I don't know the correct wording, but I need to go dig up Hayes' tweet. But we were all laughing about it.
I've got it right here. It says,
right. Go ahead.
Jaden Daniels is picking a fight with a university that has proven over the last 8 months it doesn't give a flip what anyone thinks, much less a quarterback who lost 7 games in 2 seasons.
That's exactly.
Oh, my God.
Exactly.
So with this, obviously, moving to the side shortly, what's it like covering Lane Kiffin LSU here in these early days of August as they get ready for a season? What's the differences like from previous seasons, and just what's kind of the feel in the air in Baton Rouge right now? Man,
I'm gonna be honest with you. We did a practice report about an hour and a half ago, and I was talking with John East from WAFB about it, and he nailed it, and I agree with him, because I had said something similar on one of our reports a few days ago. The feel of practice, the sense of urgency, the way practices are structured from what we get to see, and I got to preface that, it's no different than what we saw in the Brian Kelly era, or before that under Ed Orgeron, or even Les Miles. It's not like we're seeing anything that's some drastic modernization or something that's unparalleled or something we've never seen before. And a lot of it is because most of the defensive staff was already here. But it all looks the same to me. The sense of urgency, the pace. The only thing that's different is 60 new players.
How long did it take for you to know who they were?
I'm still dealing with it.
You got to. We asked, who was it? One of the coaches. We said, do you put remember the old days? You put masking tape on top of the front of the helmet and put their name.
Yeah,
do that. Yeah, I mean, some coaches probably do that.
Some of the old school coaches probably wish that they would do that, but because it used to be we'd go out there and the first day of spring camp, particularly when it was the midterm enrollees started to become a thing, 15, 20 years ago, and you usually have anywhere from a 4, 5, 6. Now it seems like 2/3 of your class, your high school signees or midterm enrollees. The first thing you would do on the first day is make a beeline to get photos and videos of all the newcomers. Well, now with the portal and everything, the newcomers are 2/3 of your roster.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It really is. Anything else, Craig? You good?
Mike, I just wanted to know your initial impressions of just hearing and seeing Sam Levitt, and just kind of what you've gathered from kind of watching him, hearing him in the little bit that you've had to maybe have that opportunity so far.
We got him Monday for the first time, and he was incredible. I think that YouTube interview is getting close to 30,000 views. It's well-spoken, a leader. He's got the respect of his teammates. We had Jordan Seaton today, who's going to, an All-American offensive lineman, left tackle. Man, what a joy it is to hear him. And he's been great all year. We had him in the spring, but Levitt, he's the real deal, and he's 100%, and he has been since May. And so that Liz Frank can be tricky, but he's good to go. And him being good to go is the whole ball of wax. And so Clemson is going to be here before you know it.
Well, good luck between now and the opener, because it's you have that game, LSU covering LSU. Not far after that, Oxford. Tickets are up nearly $600 a piece, and they're probably going to go skyrocketing higher.
Yeah, I think LSU could have game day involved with their game 3 times this year. Opener with Clemson. You got to believe they're going to be in Oxford. I think they've already said, right? for that one, the week 3, and then how are they not going to be there when Texas comes to Baton Rouge in November?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's fun about the way the schedule and the algorithm changes. And of course, they had that game in Austin. The next year, they didn't get to play it, right? Wasn't that right?
Because of COVID. They were supposed to return it that year.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I know that you kind of wait to let things play out a little bit, but that first month of the season, we will know who LSU is with Clemson and Ole Miss and A&M, I should say. September. That's pretty hellacious to start the year.
LSU will be favored in all of them except at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 2.5-point favorite right now. Early lines. You don't want to go and lose to Ole Miss and then compound it with a loss to A&M the next week because you're emotionally spent. If LSU is going to reach the expectations, which are playoffs, you cannot come out of September with more than one loss.
And if you get, either one of those games will be a quality, nice, tough win, and then obviously, you got a chance to kickstart yourself into a hell of a season with momentum, and everyone gets to know each other. Mike, great to see you. That's a good-looking golf shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good-looking golf shirt. Thank you very much for your time. Mike Scarborough does a great job covering LSU on the drama from today and the Jaden Daniels and company and LSU. Did a good job with that. He had an Under Armour, by the way, logo, and Jordan Spieth played great today in the tournament that they're back now PGA Tours in their championship playoff run. All right, we'll take a break here. Craig, we'll take a break here and come back with Ari Temkin and more. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Fastest growing pizza brand in America. Bob Mock does a great job, understands the business. I was a part of it when I was a senior in high school and then my first couple of years in college. I really loved it. It was at night, so I didn't have to get up early. And then secondly, it was just kind of fun to learn that business. And he did that for a long time. Delivered pizzas. Then he started making the pizzas, the pies inside the store. And then he started running stores. And now he owns 5 locations in the Waco area at Marcos.com. You can go online, Marcos.com. There's going to be a special pepperoni, Italian sausage, some sort of special, a smaller pizza that might have 2 or 3 ingredients, the Magnifico type of specials where they just load up the top of the pie with whatever protein you want, and they will do it. They have wings, sandwiches, and also more. 5 locations, fastest growing pizza brand in America, and Marco's Pizza, Marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it.
90 years ago, Bert Cullen Ford made a commitment, not just to sell Fords, but to serve Waco. What began in 1936 wasn't a transaction, it was a partnership built through hard work, quality, and integrity, mile by mile. For over 4 generations, Bert Cullen has been driven by Waco. Thank you for the road we've traveled together and the miles that lay ahead.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
I get those goosebumps every time. I need that time. Throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoak Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans, and we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with David Craig and Craig Smoak.
Here we go, this 4 o'clock hour, and Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, joins us today. And Ari, I want to start with BYU. Obviously, one of the teams that people feel like have a chance to play for another conference title. Maybe this year they get to the next level. But have you heard and been seeing some of the murmuring and speculation about that not everybody's on the same page with Kalani Sitake and NIL and BYU and football? Are we there? Ari looks pretty cool in those sunglasses. We get him? We lost him. I hear him. He must not hear us. He must not hear us. While we wait for him, go ahead and put him down, Rez. Do you have that audio clip I have from Kalani Sitake yesterday at practice? So we had discussed this before about, and again, some of this, and those who I've talked to, Dave McCann, among others who cover BYU and do a great job with that some of, like, there's a disconnect, or what Kalani was told he was going to get when he did the visit with Penn State, what we discussed with him, Craig, you and I, up in Frisco, with him committing to BYU, and on top of that, his assistants getting taken care of, and other things that football needed. He was asked about that earlier this week, and here's what Kalani Sitake, actually yesterday, Kalani Sitake getting peppered again, not peppered as he's getting peppered, but questions about where BYU is with football.
As you entered the season, how do you feel about the resources that you have, just from NIL to facilities to recruiting budgets and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, my agent's going to handle all that stuff, so I'm going to focus on this year's team, and as long as I'm the head coach here at BYU, I'm going to always fight like crazy to get this place so they can be a premier program. I feel like the players deserve that, and the coaches and staff deserve it, and most of all, Cougar Nation deserves it. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
Will Mark Hill work directly with this football program and you directly?
I don't know all the responsibilities that are going to be happening from our department, what our administration has decided.
Kalani, how is your relationship with Brian Santiago?
Yeah, guys, I'm easy to. How's my relationship with everybody? I'm easy to get along with, as long as you just take care of our football team and take care of the boys. The focus has got to be on the players, so the focus shouldn't be on my relationship with anybody, other than my relationship with these players and being their leader. And the great thing is we have amazing leadership on the team, so I don't have to do much. I mean, they make my job a lot easier. I just got to make sure we can avoid all the distractions, so that's my job. I'm trying to make sure these guys get all the attention, because the attention needs to be on them going into the season, you know. So I've made comments and talked about things in the past, but once the season starts, I'm all about the boys and all about what the fans expect. And so we're trying to meet all our fans' expectations, and that's what I'm working on right now.
All right, so that's Kalani Sitake. That's at practice. He's answered that a couple of different times. We had the Ben Criddle interview as well. And Ari Temkin now rejoins us, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn with us. And Ari, we have discussed this a couple of different times about there seems to be, I'm not sure, an uneasiness or disconnect, whatever it is, but what are you feeling about BYU, Kalani Sitake, and football in the athletic department?
I don't know if you can hear me, but I as soon as you start talking to me, Smokey, I can't hear you. I heard the Kalani Sitake interview. I heard everything else. But if you're asking me about Kalani, I'll just assume that since I can't really hear you. This is about as mad as you'll see him, and I think it's obvious, right? I mean, when you look at, there's a great breakdown from Joe Weed of BYU Sports Illustrated, and within it he said that, or showed the math that basically the BYU football program is about the fifth highest in terms of what they're spending on their football team, but they're the four they're behind, they're in front of in basketball. So the percentage, basically for every dollar they spend on basketball, BYU, they're spending $2.62 in football, and at Arizona State and Texas Tech and Utah and some of the bigger spenders in the Big 12, they're at about $4.68 for every dollar. So that's pretty significant. And I think if you're Kalani Sitake, you were just told, this offseason when you had the flirtations with Penn State that was, good, the discrepancy was going to be less. So, why has that not happened already? And so, look, you're not going to see a lot of infighting or drama with BYU for the most part, but this is about as much as you'll see. And within the scope of that interview, you could really sense how upset he was. In fact, I mean, he brings up like, I'll have to talk to my agent about that, which says a lot, right? I mean, the fact that that he's basically headed into his contract with his agent. Like normally you talk about that when it comes to like contract details, and he was talking about that when it came to money in football. So there is clearly some drama going on with Brian Santiago, with Kalani Sitake in that BYU athletic department, and the hiring of Mark Hill, who's a guy that was next in line for Mitch Barnhart at Kentucky, didn't get that job, interviewed as a member of the LDS Church as a connection to BYU for the AD job there, didn't get it. Now they bring him in as Brian Santiago's secondhand guy. Just very curious timing on that hire.
Are you able to hear me, Ari?
Nope, I guess not.
Okay.
No, I guess not. Can we call him, Rez? Can we? We're gonna call you. We're gonna call him if we can, and get away from the video part of it because with him driving, let's see if we can call his number and get him back on. Ari Temkin with us, Big 12 Radio. Yeah, and Bracket Cat, I know you're watching, and you had asked us to discuss BYU, which we really have the last a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, and including had that video clip from yesterday. Yeah, if that's his level of pissed, that's how calm he is, Craig, because he's not one, but he's made it very clear kind of where he is.
Well, I mean, I don't know what I think it's pretty clear he's pissed. I also think he's a level-headed guy. I don't think Kalani Sitake is ever been the type, has ever shown to be the type to where he would be pissed about something and then go out and be all angry and lash out in front of cameras. I mean, he's just not going to do that, period. So I wouldn't expect him to handle that any differently than he already did. But yeah, I think you can sense in his tone as best as he allows for there to be some interpretation that, he's not happy. The fact this is even a thing and the timing of it all sucks. As you are BYU fans getting excited about this upcoming season, you thought you had all this taken care of, and you thought that he was just going to be rolling this team back and getting back to business, and it was going to be drama-free and kumbaya and everything is great. And instead, here you are, and we're not talking about Bear Bachmeier, and we're not talking about the new receivers. We're not talking about anything other than BYU having some drama behind the scenes. And it's amazing how empires can fall. Not that they're an empire by any means, but you wonder like how teams can almost shoot themselves in the foot sometimes. And with Texas Tech, it wasn't I don't want to get them all riled up because I'm not meaning to take a jab here or anything, but it's like, man, what could possibly go wrong here? And it's like, well, your quarterback could get in trouble that you brought in as a high-profile transfer. That's not self-inflicted. That was just a raw end of the deal. But it's like with BYU, it's like, oh, what could possibly go wrong? Everything's going so great. It's like, well, you could have your athletic department suddenly not follow up on their promises to the football coach, and then you suddenly have this issue. So in Tech's case, everything rolling on along and just something completely unforeseen that's not really their doing other than the response to it. And that's how a curveball can be thrown and interrupt some momentum, although I think they're going to recover just fine from it. Whereas with BYU, I do wonder, like, what kind of a disruption could this possibly be? I don't think he's going to be any less of a coach. I don't think his players are going to play any less hard for him. But if this does get ugly and there's stuff behind the scenes, I mean, that can tend to bleed through in some form or fashion. So it's not needed, it's not wanted, but it's what they've created with how they've gone about handling what was promised to him. So, it's interesting that this has developed this way, and you thought this would all be taken care of and no big deal, and instead it's becoming a thing.
Well, we're back with Ari. We reconnected on the cell phone only, no video, Craig. So let's get to, you were about to ask him a question. He couldn't quite hear us for some reason, but glad to have you, Ari. Here's Craig.
So, Ari, I was just going to ask you, do you feel like this is something that we continue to hear about during the season? Do you feel like this is something that could somehow bleed its way into affecting the team in any way? Or do you think this is just simply, hey, this is totally off the field and this is not going to matter in the big picture for BYU football?
I don't think it'll matter in terms of the on-field product this year. It is, though, really interesting, guys. I mean, those numbers again, where for every dollar in basketball, football is getting $2.62, which compared to the four top spenders in the Big 12, Arizona State, Utah, Texas Tech, and I'm missing one more, I think it's TCU. They're about $4.80. The basketball team has really not had the results you'd want, considering the finances they're spending on that. And conversely, the football team, it's kind of absurd how good they've been despite being where they are from a revenue standpoint and from a spending standpoint. So it's hard to find fault in Kalani Sitake. And again, it isn't as if this was something that, just came out of the blue, came out of nowhere. It's worth saying too that Brian Santiago is a former college basketball player. This was one of the concerns that a lot of folks had when he was hired. Would he be too committed to basketball? And, again, like I think Kevin Young's a really good coach, but the results have not been great. I mean, they've had two disappointing seasons last year with tons of talent. And then football at the opposite end of the spectrum is doing a lot with very little. I don't think it'll bleed into the season. However, I do think, again, with the hiring of Mark Hill, if there's, I can't imagine that the brass at BYU would side with Brian Santiago in a fight between Santiago and Kalani Sitake. And I like both of them and know them both very well, but I just don't see a situation in which you're going to side with Santiago here. So I don't know why Santiago wouldn't concede in this capacity in some way. Maybe he's worried about losing Kevin Young. I'm not sure, but I would think given the investment in football, the success of football, and the relative lack of success for basketball, despite having these high dollar rosters, would say something internally to them.
Yeah, and I wonder, with the hiring of Hill, could he then become, and like even Kalani, he's not sure, but would he then maybe become sort of a buffer to kind of like, okay, you discussed this. Brian Santiago, we've had him on. He said everything correctly, but this isn't the first time, Ari, that this has come up. This happened even maybe a couple of months ago, if I remember correctly.
Right. No, I mean, it has been an ongoing story basically since he was hired, because he has that basketball background, and there was concern that, here's a guy that is he too overcommitted to basketball, especially when football drives the bus. Look, the role that Mark Hill has been hired to do is to basically appropriate funds across the athletic department. So I think, Smokey, you hit the nail on the head there in terms of being a buffer. Like, if his role is to say, hey, we're going to appropriate these funds for these sports, then, I think that is the perfect buffer role. With that being said, he comes from Kentucky, where they're used to spending all kinds of money on basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then the Barnhart thing, when he left, man, there was a mess about how much he was promised and salary and luxury suites or whatever along the way. All right. So with BYU in that story, Texas Tech has kind of gone about their business and kind of gotten back to norm. There was the issue about scheduling. How many of the games that they say have been canceled or they have contacted, how many of those teams do you really think have said no to them?
Well, look, what Tech is dealing with is no different than what many other programs are dealing with. And I mean, it's like, I think it's multifaceted. Number one, the problem that everybody's dealing with, the ACC and the SEC added a ninth conference game. And so inevitably if you're adding one more game, you have to subtract a game. And in the case of adding another Power 4 game within your conference, you're not gonna, keep the Power 4 non-conference game you have. I mean, NC State, look at how many games NC State has lost. They lost a home and home with South Carolina. I believe they lost a future game with Florida. So Texas Tech is not alone here. Now, I get that Tech fans and people would jump to the conclusion, that they're getting blackballed, or nobody wants to play them because of what happened this summer. And certainly, I'm sure some programs could be thinking about that. But I mean, I think it's the top line piece that matters more than anything, and that is, that the SEC, the ACC added a ninth conference game, and that there's a lot of teams that are SOL because of it. And I think when you're looking at it and you got all these reasons on one side, then suddenly you can play the moral high ground here and say, well, we don't want to play with them. We don't want to deal with that. But I don't think that's the primary reason. The primary reason is what everybody's dealing with. And, look, I do think, and, I'm certainly going to continue to bring this up internally with the Big 12. We've talked with athletic directors about this. Is there a need for a 10th Big 12 game? And if what appears to be happening, where not just Texas Tech, but the Big 12 is getting washed out from Power 4 games against the SEC and the Big 10, or specifically the SEC, because there are future Big 10 games. Iowa will always play Iowa State, it seems like. So there will be those. But even the ACC, which is canceling games, do you need to, if you're the Big 12, beef up your conference schedule a little bit, play a 10th game? I think that's something the Big 12 has to talk about and figure out if that even helps them, right? Because who even knows if they play a 10th game, if it helps them enough when it comes to the CFP to justify adding that. So, no, I don't. I think it's easy for people to sit here and say that it's the Sorsby thing and what happened in the summer is the reasoning. I don't buy it, because it's happening everywhere, and it's just a math problem. If you're adding a game, you have to subtract a game somewhere. You can't play 13 games, and so you're going to subtract the game where you have the Power 4 opponent.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona State's lost games against LSU and Texas, and they have nothing to do with anything other than the SEC adding another game. So I'm with you. I understand why some Tech fans want to go to that well for everything at this point, but yeah, I'm with you.
Everything.
I mean, it does feel that way for some people, not the whole fan base, obviously, but there are, like, anything that goes wrong, it's like, oh, it's because of that. And it's like, no, there's not always that tie in there. So yeah, Arizona State's been bitten by that as well. I mean, you kind of laid it out there. How much of a concern do you feel like this is? I mean, I'm almost wondering, should you not be down up the ACC and saying we need to put a scheduling agreement together so that we can ensure we all have a power conference game? Because the way the Big 12 is viewed nationally, Ari, I don't think they're getting more respect by playing another conference game. Do you? I mean, so this feels like something that they definitely need to be active on trying to figure out, because there's the danger of getting boxed out, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're the Big 12, you absolutely need to, call and try to figure out what options you could have. The Big 10, the ACC. I think you have to exercise every option, but it just feels like right now it's sort of every man for themselves, and you're kind of like SOL. And look, I mean, at this point in time, if you're the ACC or the SEC, does it benefit you at all to schedule games against the Big 12? Probably not. I mean, the ACC went 1-6 against the Big 12 last year. I know the SEC had success, but those are games with the SEC in particular where it seems like lose in many instances. So I think you're right. I don't know at the end of the day if a 10th conference game would truly be worth it, because I don't know that the Big 12 would get the benefit of it. And so adding an additional potential loss in your schedule with another Big 12 game, doesn't make a ton of sense. But I think at this point, you've got to exercise every option you have, because, without doing anything, the Big 12 is getting washed out in all of these games. And, hopefully, like, again, Iowa State shall remain. Hopefully, Kansas and Missouri are restarting their series. They've got that for a few years. Hopefully that gets extended down the road. But yeah, I mean, beyond that, I think the Big 12 has to figure out a way to to continue to push down with more power conference power non-conference opponents and see what other options are out there. The other thing is, and I've definitely talked about this too. Maybe it's a 10th conference game. At the end of the year, that's more of like a conference tournament for the top 4 seeds. And I know we've talked a little bit about this too, where, instead of just the top 2 seeds of the Big 12 play each other, the Big 12 championship, maybe you carve out the final couple of weeks, play a Big 12 playoff situation, and that's the 10th game that determines who plays for the Big 12 championship. At least that then cooks the books a little bit. So, it's good on good. So it's another good resume win in that vein. Now, it could obviously be a loss too, but this point, I don't think there are any bad ideas.
Ari, switching gears a little bit, we were talking to Mike Scarborough about the whole LSU trauma that is bigger today because of when it occurred, although it's just kind of an interesting story to begin with, but we definitely just need to get to the season, I feel like, at this point. But one of the things that he brought up when talking to us was the Deion practice rules that was going around here the last couple of days, and the stringent rules for media that are reporting on Colorado. Did you happen to pay much attention to that? And what are your thoughts on Deion kind of running a closed camp? I know it's not totally unique to him. Are people overreacting because it's Deion, or are they trying to be like state media up in Boulder, and that's going to be problematic in your opinion?
First off, I thought I was about to get to Jaden Daniels' question. I was ready to tee off.
Go for it.
Especially, who doesn't like ripping on the Commanders at this point in this part of the country? Unless I guess you're Matthew McConaughey.
Actually, you're talking to 2 Commanders fans right now.
Or David and Craig Smoak.
Yeah. You know what? I did forget you guys are Commanders fans. How did that work out?
We've tried to forget that too, Simon, but you kept bringing it up. Yeah.
Well, it feels a lot like Jaden Daniels about to be RG3 2.0 all over again for the Commanders.
Yeah, I think there's concerns about that.
Yeah, when I say that as a Bears fan who looked to be on the wrong side of that draft after 1 year. But I digress. We're not talking about Jaden Daniels, even though he did himself no favors for his future NIL earnings by what he's doing right now. His Q rating is down very low, and his mom is crazy. But I digress. So the first thing I thought of is this is all about exclusive content for Deion Jr.'s well-off media. That's more than the secrecy aspect of it is. You can go log on to YouTube at Well Off Media, and you can find plenty of practice content there. So, and also you can find some good Shedeur Sanders practice content. I'm not sure how they're able to get access to the Cleveland Browns, but that's neither here nor there. Look, it's funny. We've talked a lot about this in Dallas with the Cowboys over the last 48 hours because Cowboys media didn't really know what to do with themselves with the Rams joint practice because, guys like John Machota and Nick Harris, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, they're used to filming every play of Cowboys practice, and they were not allowed to do that with the Rams. And, it's funny because, any Cowboys fans, think that that's the reason that they haven't won a Super Bowl, in 30, 40 years, whatever it is. That's absurd. I think it's obvious why the Cowboys have won a Super Bowl in 30, 40 years. And it has nothing to do with filming or not filming practice. Probably has a lot to do with the guy that owns the team. I don't know. I've just observed it for the last 3 decades. But it really has, it feels like gone to a different level across the board with football in terms of just secrecy and fear. And, I think it's a little ridiculous because, look, can you pick some things up? And I do know that Christian Parker, the new DC of the Cowboys, mentioned that, we used to pick some stuff up by looking at their film and checking out what they're doing and spying on them a little bit. But we're talking about the first couple of weeks of the season. Teams change. You're going to put all of your stuff on film anyways after the first few weeks of the season. You've got injuries. There's so much that happens. By the time you get to week 7, 8, 9, 10, none of that stuff matters. So it just feels like, they're so paranoid and it's absurd. And I do think that that's part of this, but more than that, I think it's so stringent because they can have that exclusive content as a part of Well Off Media, which it seems like is a huge part of why Deion took that job in the first place.
Yeah, no, it is. And I want to get back to what you said about the Cowboys. I mentioned that the Cowboys media, they are spoiled. And all of a sudden they're being told Christian Parker didn't want them filming. Yeah, they lost their minds over that. I mean, they they raised up like they were about to protest. And I guess for a while, Jerry then intervened. I don't know what, again, I think they lost that battle again. Those guys are spoiled as hell.
Yeah, no, they are. In fact, I'm doing some work over at Haymaker Network, and we had John Machota on, and I was like, John, did you have to like leave your phone in the car so that you didn't like forget and take? And he was like, yeah. I mean, he's like, yeah, I went to get my phone out, and I was like, oh no, I was hoping to not get in trouble. And the other thing that he said, he was like, I've never been more bored at practice before. I was just waiting for it to be over so that I could go and report the things I saw, because, normally there's at least good content and video you could film for your social channels. And he's like, yeah, it was just really boring at the end. So I was ready to get out of there.
Yeah, it's just a bummer for Colorado media that probably had other plans on how this was going to go. I don't know. Maybe they assumed or had an idea it was going to be that way, but I'm sure that changed or altered some plans. And all I know is this. I mean, I know he's not on any hot seat because he's Dion, but they better show something this year. I mean, that's all I know. It's one thing to dictate practices and do things how you want to do them. And you have had some success. Let's not pretend like there hasn't been any, because you did have a Heisman Trophy winner, but I just feel like that's just a team that really needs to show something this year. The shine has worn off to a certain degree.
There's no question, and we even discussed an article from the Denver Post today on the show where, basically the takeaway was, like there's some goodwill here. You sold out games just because you were Deion Sanders, but you're not selling out games anymore unless you show that you can be more than just Deion Sanders. And look, I do think that there's reason for optimism. I think Deion, aside from the stuff from having bladder cancer, having his bladder moved last year, like his decisions and the coaches he hired, basically having this arbitrage of NFL Hall of Famers did not work. I think the pairing last year going into the season, I said, this is a horrible pairing, with their offensive coordinator as this pro style offense with Caden Salter and Julian Lewis, who are two non-pro style offense types quarterbacks. Of course you've got this veteran offensive coordinator, former NFL head coach, that's not going to bend to the whims of a more college offense, if you will. So it was just a disaster. Brennan Marion at offensive coordinator, I think, is a perfect fit for Julian Lewis. Chris Marv at defensive coordinator, they're going to run more of a 3-4. They were running a 4-2-5 and couldn't stop the run. It's great to run a 4-2-5 if you could stop the run just rushing three, but if you can't, you're in big time trouble. And that's what they were last year. They were just running horrible schemes that did not fit their personnel. I feel like they fit more. But the caveat here, Craig, is their schedule is brutal. Can you find me 6 wins in that schedule? I mean, 2 Power 4 games on the road and non-conference, including Northwestern and Georgia Tech. I know those aren't terribly difficult, but you're still talking about ACC and Big Ten opponents. And then, in conference, it's also a brutal schedule. So as much as I want to say they're a bowl team, and I've said it multiple times this offseason, the realities of that schedule are brutal.
Last thing, Artie, and we appreciate your time. Who among what is considered the middle section or below can make a run that nobody expects this year in the Big 12?
How about Baylor? We got any Baylor fans in the building? Baylor Bears?
Well, no fans actually in this building. We cover them, as you do too. They have had a couple of things go their way. The Hosea Tate, oh God dang it, he's a
Wheeler,
former Indiana player, and then they got another guy that a body. So maybe Klanderman's got something up his sleeve, and the defense with him in charge. But they do have bodies in the trenches that last year I don't think they had on either side of the ball very well.
Yeah, and I think you can make a pretty good. So I think at the top you've got clearly Texas Tech and BYU and are in a tier in their own, and then I think you can probably put Houston, Utah, maybe Arizona in that second tier, maybe, and then I think if you don't put Arizona in that second tier, it's like Arizona and TCU in that third tier, and then I think you got a handful of teams, but like TCU's another team where it feels like this is the year for them now. I don't know if they're a middle tier team, but they also have a really, really tough schedule that for me, it's like, yeah, I like what they did. Again, Gordon Samus, they want to not turn the football over as much. They bring in Jaden Craig at quarterback, who's not turned the ball over a ton with his time at Harvard. And, they should have a good running game. Their offensive line should be good. Their defensive line is very good. So I could see a path for TCU. They've won 18 games over the last 2 years. It doesn't feel like they have because it's weird. Like they have won 9 games in back-to-back years, but really in either of those years never really sniffed, competing for a Big 12 championship. But, I'm a little bit reluctant on Baylor because I, picked them to win the Big 12 last year, and that blew up in my face, obviously. But, man, I do like Baylor a lot because of Joel Klanderman. The dude has never had a below-average defense. At worst, he'll have an average defense, which is great news for Baylor because they haven't seen that in a long time. And, yeah, Hosea Wheeler in the middle of that defense. I think you've got a lot of guys that are sick and tired of being dragged through the mud that want to prove themselves, that have a little bit of that. And so I could see Baylor being kind of a sleeper team as well.
It'll be interesting. They obviously, Aranda needs it. Appreciate it, Ari. Appreciate your time.
You guys are the best.
Have a great
Take care.
Rest of your day and also into the week. Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Coming up, we'll hear from Sam Spiegelman. He covers high school recruiting. We don't get into that a lot, but it's there. And, of course, school starting throughout the country. And as school and football season is about to start at the high school level, his thoughts about the nuggets, the gold, the gems, and maybe those who are underranked that are not getting enough attention. That's next. This is 365 Sports. It's Tarleton State University. You get more for an education. You get a purpose that transforms your life and inspires future generations. The hands-on learning and the real-life research. Students graduate ready to lead, serve, and make an impact, which is what you want when you go to college and when you are teaching, of course, the students that are at your university. Built on access, opportunity, and affordability. Tarleton State, Todd Whitten, their football coach, they're going to be pretty good again. And, of course, a relationship that we have with them, a partnership to promote what they have. Texans and the tools to succeed at Tarleton State. You are made for more, and they will give you more. It's learn more at tarleton.edu.
It's the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out the new 2026 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Your choice is 0% for 36 months or save $10,000. Take off the top. Hit the road. Allen Samuels Jeep.
Come by, let's be friends.
Have you heard of the new IRA, the Insured Retirement Advantage? It's a strategy for younger high-income earners and small business owners who want to get serious about retirement. The Insured Retirement Advantage can help you build a tax-free income stream for retirement, protect your family's legacy, keep your capital working efficiently, and you don't need ultra-high net worth status to qualify. Call 623-256-6902 or go to northstarfundingpartners.com and tell them 365 Sports sent you.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Dana Hassel, President and CEO of American Bank. Waco is a great place for business, and for more than 70 years, American Bank has been the bank for business. We continue to invest in our growing community with state-of-the-art branches conveniently located to serve you within minutes. Our experienced bankers, lenders, and decision makers work directly with business owners like you every day, providing tailored solutions, timely answers, and local insights, face-to-face. Schedule a meeting with one of our bankers today and find out what makes American Bank the bank for your business. Member FDIC.
At Home Place Interiors, we elevate your space with elegance and class. We are the exclusive Sonoma Tile dealer in Central Texas, bringing you the best in high-end floor coverings that transform your home with beauty and elegant design. Our white glove service and expert consultations ensure your vision becomes a reality as we take you step by step through the process. Call today to schedule your personal design consultation. Visit HomePlaceInteriorsTX.com. Home Place Interiors, crafting elegance, one room at a time.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Craig.
And that would be us. Thank you very much. Rez Flores running the mothership, and Sam Spiegelman, Rivals, joins us on 365 Sports. And Sam, there's so much attention now, as you know, to the transfer portal that sometimes that's overlooked what you do, which is cover the high school part of it. Not that you don't keep up with all of it. How many of the 138 FBS schools or the Power 4 schools, 60 plus, actually still depend on the high school recruiting more than the portal?
I don't know if they're relying on it more than the portal, but certainly the best programs in the country, the programs that are competing for college football playoff berths, competing for conference and national championships, their roster assembly comes from the portal, but as well through the high school ranks. If you need an immediate help at left tackle, going through the portal might be the best way to go about it. If you don't have a blue chip, ready-made offensive tackle in your state that you have to win a very fierce recruiting battle over, in the transfer portal, you can make a significant NIL pitch. If you're a contender, you probably have the tools to make that pitch to get an impact player through the portal. But if you want to fortify your offensive line for the next 3 or 4 years to continue that championship window, then you're also recruiting the next guy behind that transfer portal addition. When you look at programs like Texas and Texas A&M, they make big waves in the transfer portal. SMU, for that matter, as well. All the programs in the state. But when you're looking at teams that are in the mix for conference and playoff berths this year, they jive up their rosters to the portal. They make big splashes, but they're also in the mix with top 10 recruiting classes. They're recruiting great players. They're trusting their evals. And in the NIL era, more than anything, they are relying on their own system, whether it's spring evals, whether it's camp evaluations, senior seasons, junior seasons, whatever it is, whatever moves the boat for that program. They're still recruiting, and that's always going to be the lifeblood of competitive programs.
And Sam, 3 Texas programs I think that are hitting it on all levels right now. You mentioned A&M, Texas Tech as well. All 3 top 10 recruiting classes as of right now. Tech's got the number 1 player in Jalen Brewster, and we know they've had success in the portal. Just how much of a disruptor and kind of a change up have they been in the bigger picture recruiting battles these last couple seasons?
It is like night and day. The way the Texas Tech used to recruit maybe 10, 15 years ago compared to what it's been like the last 2 or 3 years. First of all, let's talk about Joey McGuire and James Blanchard, the head coach and the general manager over in Lubbock. They do a fantastic job. And when you look at that staff from the head coach and the general manager on down, it's about old school principles in recruiting. It's about relationship building. You will not find a Texas Tech player on the roster or someone who's in their recruiting class whose mom and dad don't also have a relationship with James Blanchard and Joey McGuire, possibly Joey McGuire's wife. It is a true, real relationship that they forge over in West Texas, and that's carried over. But in the NIL, is also about evaluations. We talk about the way different programs go about it. Texas Tech has and continues to be one of the pioneers in early offers, doing their homework and getting offers out early. That hasn't changed in the NIL era. But what the NIL era has done is it has made Texas Tech a force recruiting the state of Texas. There was a time when they used to recruit the 3rd and 4th and 5th tier level of prospects. And now if they think that they are a day one impact starter, they can recruit with Texas and A&M and Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State for the best of the best in the country. They are doing so in their own state. Obviously, like I said, the real relationships, Joey McGuire's coaching background, this staff's chemistry with the high school coaches across the state of Texas is as good as any in the program, but they're also recruiting nationally. They've gone into California. They've gone into South Georgia and beaten Georgia and South Carolina for 5 stars. They recruited the Washington, D.C. area. They'll go into Louisiana, into Mississippi, into Alabama, you name it. Texas Tech is not afraid to do that. And they can do that now because of, one, fantastic coaches and general manager and front office. Two, they just won a conference championship and are going to be in a conference championship window for the foreseeable future. And three, the NIL era. Cody Campbell and the boosters over in Lubbock want to see a competitive team, and they're going to empower their coaches and front office members to do exactly that.
So it's recruiting, so things do change and guys do flip and all that. With their 2 5-stars in particular, and Jalen Brewster, who's closer to home and has that Cedar Hill tie with Joey McGuire, but then Anthony Sweeney from Baltimore. I mean, how much are they white-knuckling until signing day? How much do they feel like, no, we got this? What is your opinion on those 2 top-level 5-star guys for this Tech class?
Yeah, in terms of Jalen Brewster, I know that he recently made comments along the lines of his recruitment still being open. And for long stretches of this summer and definitely since the spring, there has been plenty of contenders swinging away at Jalen Brewster. We can talk about Texas has done their homework on Jalen Brewster. SMU did their homework on Jalen Brewster. The defending national champions, Indiana, had him on campus. His dad is an Indiana native who played for Ball State, so there was genuine interest in the defending national champions. Florida had a lot of momentum for parts of the summer, and then throughout most of June and into July, it was LSU giving Texas Tech the biggest run over the number 1 player in the country, Jalen Brewster. There were members of Brewster's circle that told LSU that he wanted to play in Baton Rouge for Lane Kiffin and Coach Ed Orgeron. As of today, Thursday, August 13th, we're days away from Jalen Brewster kicking off his senior season at Cedar Hill. I fully expect him to sign with the Red Raiders when it's all said and done. Like you said, this is recruiting. This is no such thing as a sure thing. But the way that Texas Tech landed an early commitment back in October or November of his junior season, the way they have ridden and survived these different waves of contenders trying to flip Jalen Brewster. At this point, from speaking to multiple members of his circle and also some really prominent sources in Lubbock, there is a strong sense that he will be a Red Raider. They have the strongest relationship they have in this whole recruiting process has been Joey McGuire, who has encouraged Jalen to go and explore these other contenders. We're talking about Florida and LSU, who have new coaches. We're talking about SMU. We were talking about earlier, one of the most up-and-coming programs in the country from his hometown of Dallas. We talked about the University of Texas, which is a national championship favorite right now, and Indiana, who just won a natty. And he still believes that Texas Tech is the place that can put him in a position where he wants to be the number 1 pick in the draft. Texas Tech has bolstered their in the trenches out first during this little window of being really competitive. And they're going to continue to follow that blueprint. Jalen Brewster is a huge step for that. And in terms of Anthony Sweeney, very similar. LSU has kicked the tires. They got an official visit from the 5-star edge from the Baltimore, Washington area. Ultimately, I think this is one where you need to follow the actions. That was his first ever visit to Baton Rouge, and he has a fantastic relationship with Sterling Lucas, who was leading his recruitment when he was the position coach at South Carolina. He was an early lean toward the Gamecocks. That not only opened the door for Texas Tech to swoop in and eventually land his commitment this spring, but of course, that also, when you land an early commitment, it leaves the door open for kids to potentially explore their options just to be sure of their decisions. If he ends up making a game in Tiger Stadium this fall, we'll have more to speak about. But right now, there's confidence in Lubbock that Anthony Sweeney will be a Red Raider.
One other question about that, and Sam Spiegelman Rivals with us on 365 Sports. Sometimes you have schools that make a run. They get better. They start to recruit better. And obviously, you mentioned Tech, and there's been others over the years. But it's one thing to get the commitment. It's one thing to get offers out first. But eventually, in the end, you still kind of get overwhelmed by it. That's not happening to them. How much is that annoying the hell out of people?
You know what? I think everyone still is still becoming a believer in the Red Raiders. I think you're exactly right. Everyone thinks that they can extend the offer or get them to get the Texas Tech commit to visit, and if they want, they can press on the gas and get the flip. But this is a group of, first of all, Texas Tech is recruiting for talent, of course, but they're also recruiting character. Not to harp on this again, but the real relationships that these kids are committing to Tech. They're getting paid handsomely from the NIL aspect. And they're also building fantastic relationships with Joey McGuire and his staff, the position coaches, the front office, and so are their families. So when they come in and commit, they're part of the family over in the Red Raiders. And they're talking about, we just won one Big 12 championship. We restocked our roster. We're going to win a playoff game next year and continue owning the Big 12, continuing to put our roster up against the Georgias, Ohio States, Texases, you name it, of the world, and have a shot at national championships. These are unheard of things that we were never talking about in West Texas 10 years ago. And these kids are really buying in. Again, sure, there's an NIL aspect that they can get paid well by Texas Tech, but there are other schools in Texas and around the country that can dish out a very nice paycheck. So it's more than just that. It's about the relationships, it's about the belief in the program. It's about an old school belief that if you do all the right things, that you are going to build the right sort of program that will compete and bring in the right sort of kids and eventual talent. And I think that's exactly what Texas Tech has and will continue to do under this leadership team.
Sam, I would expect the same based on where you find them in the rankings these last couple years in the high school ranks, but also the portal ranks. Not only how high they are and who they're in the mix with, which is all of the SEC and Big Ten schools, but then the drop-off to the rest of their competitors within their league. I mean, you got to go all the way to 30 to Kansas State. Now, I will say, looks like Colin Klein's kind of got something going on there. He's got a handful of 4-stars. Like, they're doing great. It's just that there is that drop-off there. But I want to ask you from this standpoint, what do you think of K-State and kind of the early looks at Colin Klein's methods, and anybody else from that league that obviously there's a lot of room, but anybody else that you just have taken note of and maybe some of the things they've been up to of late?
Yeah, to your first point on Texas Tech, they're out to they're not trying to keep pace with the rest of the Big 12. They're trying to set the pace in the Big 12. They're trying to compete with the Georgias, Ohio States, Texases of the world, of the best 6 to 7 rosters in the country. Now, as far as the rest of the Big 12, I do think you're also right. I think Texas Tech has taken that next step of being not only the power in the conference, but a championship contender. And I think there's a couple of other programs that are going to make some noise and at least start going in that direction. You name it, with Colin Klein over at Kansas State, spent the last couple of years at A&M, obviously learned from the great Bill Snyder over at Kansas State when he was there. I think you see what he's done in our state, guys, the way he's recruiting 4-stars from all over Texas, winning battles with in-state programs like SMU and Baylor, which are no slouches to recruit against. They got fantastic staffs over there, but there is a big sense of culture change going on in Manhattan, Kansas, behind Colin Klein. He brought over a lot of staffers from his time at Texas A&M, from across the state of Texas. He even dipped into Louisiana, and they are winning some big-time recruiting battles against not only in-state competition in the Big 12, but SEC competition like Ole Miss, LSU, Arkansas, schools around this region that they have to go toe-to-toe with, and they're winning those battles. I think that K-State is definitely a team that we're going to be talking about in a whole new light, and as early as this season, but moving forward. I also think we need to do the same about Oklahoma State. I don't think that Eric Morris and what he did at North Texas was a slouch. They have some of the most eye-popping, eye-grabbing numbers as far as winning percentages that you've ever come across when they were at North Texas. And I think a lot of that is going to translate well into the Big 12. We've already seen them bring over their quarterback, Drew Mestemaker. We've seen a difference in the way that other highly touted quarterbacks and offensive skill players in the state as recruits are viewing Oklahoma State, and they haven't played a single down of meaningful football yet. So there's still a long ways to go and a lot of room for them to climb, and I think it's going to have an effect. But yeah, K-State and Oklahoma State, we can of course talk about Arizona State, but they've been there. But, Oklahoma State, Kansas State are two teams that have made noise this offseason. Both have new coaching staffs, and I think both are going to bring some very welcome change to their respective programs this year.
How much does Colin Klein, and again, he played the game. He's also was a star when he was at Kansas State, but also the connection to what he did with Mike Elko and Texas A&M carried over to him in Manhattan?
You got to remember, he was the offensive play caller, the offensive coordinator. He's involved in recruiting a lot of these kids and getting to shake a lot of hands and meet a lot of the right people from the time a lot of these kids, were eighth graders, camping at A&M, and this is A&M. This is the best of the best. This is where every high school coach in the state, every talented kid that's going to play in the Power Four is going to work out somewhere in Kyle Field before, as their recruitment journey begins. So you see that a lot of guys that have worked out, this rising senior class, these 2027s that ended up at Kansas State, were guys that have camped and been evaluated by the A&M staff when Colin Klein was there. A lot of guys that, he brought over his cornerbacks coach, that secondary targets that came over that are now committed to Kansas State. Same with the defensive line, has a lot of Texas flavor. Those are guys that were previously committed to Baylor or considering schools like Oklahoma State, the teams that we're mentioning. But of course, those ties make a difference. Relationships make a difference. Being a young coach, able to relate and recruit these players, understanding what they are going through. Everyone wants to take the vantage point of, these are athletes that get paid, so it's got to be easy. But no, these are really difficult decisions to make a sound decision when you're considering finances, opportunity, development, and making a sound decision that encompasses all of it, not just one factor.
You mentioned earlier, and he's on the proverbial hot seat with Aranda. He's got a staff that's they're doing well. I mean, they're scratching it, but are they getting enough? They had a decent class. They made a run. The NIL is kind of questionable at times if it's enough, especially they spent some money on Wheeler from Indiana with nearly $1 million. But are they doing enough of that at the high school level?
Yeah, I think Baylor has first of all, has invested in some great resources through the portal. I mean, we don't have to look much further than their quarterback, who may end up being the savior for Dave Aranda and the Bears in this coaching staff, because it's a fantastic coaching staff. It's a great front office from general manager Aaron Hunt on down, and the young staff that they have some great personnel in that building. So they have the formula to win, but certainly Dave Aranda being on the hot seat the last year or two has had its impact on the high school recruiting front. There are kids that, even though he got the contract extension, are still skittish to believe that he will be there for the long term. So I don't think it's so much that Baylor hasn't tried to, take advantage of the resource that is high school recruiting. They have had some really talented classes that have kind of fall apart at the seams down the stretch that, I think with a winning season, with a promising season, they could kind of reverse that trend and get back to where they were. But they are not recruiting at the high school level I think that they would want to. When Dave Aranda and Aaron Hunt first got there, of course, they were recruiting. They were in more competitive recruiting battles for higher rated talent. Now I think that's kind of taken a little bit of a step back. But like I said, they can get back on the right foot. There's plenty of 2027s that they could flip inside the state late with great senior seasons if they're having a great season. And just as important, they can always invest in the transfer portal. They can get on the right foot in the 2028 class, which is very deep, very talented. And this is the time to strike when the iron is hot for these 2028s going into their junior season falls, if they can win a couple of games on the field this fall.
Who is, do you have one, Greg? Who is right now, you mentioned Brewster among others. Let's look at the quarterback position. Bryant's going to Tech. Babin, I think, is now Baylor. He was going to Vanderbilt. He flipped, the kid from Woodville, and among others. Is there a quarterback in Texas that has not yet made the decision that's the highest rank or the one that most people are still after?
Yes. Julian Reese is the highest unranked quarterback in the country. He is a 4-star from Amarillo, Palo Duro out in West Texas, coming off of a sensational junior season that really put himself on the map. And a lot of the teams that we just talked about, including Baylor, including Kansas State, were evaluating Julian this spring, and is probably, with the exception of KV and Brian, who, like you said, is a Gatorade Player of the Year candidate, is all going to break every record at his Palestine Westwood when he's all said and done. But Reese is one of the more traitsy, toolsy quarterback prospects, not only in the state of Texas that's still uncommitted, but around the country. He had a really fantastic offseason of just trying the quarterback position from a camp setting out for the first time. And I think a lot of colleges were close to offering this spring. Some did, some didn't. You had schools like Houston and Wake Forest that offered him at receiver and at safety. And he's the level of prospect, the type of athlete with the skill set, the traits, the measurables, the times, all that jazz that would wow at the NFL scouting combine. I think he could be an impact day one starter at a non-quarterback position at Wake Forest or at Houston, which are going to be finalists for his decision at the end of the month. But Delaware is a team that really likes him at quarterback. UTEP liked him at quarterback. K-State and Michigan State and Baylor evaluated him at quarterback. But Delaware really took a liking to him playing quarterback. No questions. They think they can build around him. And that's the team that I believe is trending ahead of what should be an August 28th decision at his high school for week 1. But you never know. UTEP is really in this. Like we said, Wake Forest and Houston will have hats on the table. But if he's resolute on playing quarterback, I'd keep an eye on the Blue Hens with the decision in 2 weeks.
Sam, thank you very much. We'll have you on again after the season's underway. 26 class December and then a little bit in February, but it's time to talk 27. Obviously, the next 20, I guess, class of 28 pretty soon, too. Thanks for your time. Have a great rest of your week.
Sounds good, guys. Talk to you soon.
Sam Spiegelman for Rivals.com with us. And there was a time when I would have a high school recruiting analyst sometimes every week. And it's just not quite, it's still big, as you mentioned, as you know, and as I know, and Craig, you know too, but it was kind of nice to get him on for a different, fresh look, fresh paint, I guess you could say, as we head into the season. When we come back, well, let's go ahead. Rez, let's spin the wheel.
If you were a farmer and had space for only one kind of livestock, what animal would you get? Cows, chickens, sheep, pigs, etc.
You ever heard that narrative about Nebraska when they talk about if you were a farmer and they talk, it's kind of an image campaign for them. I would want cattle.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. What image campaign? What do you?
I think I don't know if it's Johnny Carson who voices it, but if I was a farmer or if you, it's just a really good deal. Look it up.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but yeah, they got a lot of farmland out in Nebraska, as we experienced a couple years ago. That's basically all you drive through. So no shortage of corn and livestock. I never have given this much thought, but I don't know. I'm thinking about all these, and immediately I start thinking like that'd be cool. And then the downside to it, horses I know are like super high maintenance and then just so fragile. I don't know. Cows would be pretty cool. It's just a lot of food, but they seem like big dogs. So I don't know. Maybe cows would be pretty fun to have.
Yep, I think so too. All of them. You got a lot of maintenance, man. That's the core of America, farmers in the Midwest, but also everywhere else as well. Now, let's get to 2 quizzes. We were 1-1 yesterday. We slipped and fell on a bar of soap. Let's get to 2-0. First quiz. Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Feller was famous for his blazing pitch speed. What vehicle did he famously race his fastball against in the 1940 stunt? It wouldn't be Formula One.
I don't know, but I feel like I need to be 85 years old to answer the trivia questions here lately because they've all been like pre-1950, I feel like, for the most part. You disagree?
They can go back a little while. I think that's why we're pretty competitive, because you have an 80-year-old co-host.
Yeah, no, we've had a lot of like 40s and 30s and 20s, and I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying, like, yeah, it's lately it's been a lot of that era, and I don't know that as well. So this is another one where I'm just like, I have no earthly idea. A locomotive seems like it would make a lot of sense. That feels like it would be kind of a stunt that you would pull. I don't know how that would work.
When were motorcycles invented? Well, they had them back in the day.
I mean, they were definitely riding motorcycles during World War II.
Yeah,
so they were around
Formula race car. I don't even know what they were doing back in 1940. Steam locomotive. It wouldn't be an airplane. So I would think you're right, Craig. The steam locomotive. The thing is does it after it's underway, after it's on the tracks and rolling, that they try to throw it and at the same speed? Well, you pick the winner here.
Yeah,
You're so grumpy on this one today.
I'm totally fine. I don't know what you're talking about. I think steam locomotive is where I would go with that.
All right, let's go steam locomotive. A speedy motorcycle. Dressed
that shows which is the faster, the racing motorcycle or the pitched bull. Coming down the highway at a speed of 86 miles per hour, the policeman crosses the pitching line, and there they go. Whoa. Bingo! Too fast for you? Well, let's go back and do that scene over again for you. Now we'll see how you look in slow motion. Yes, sir, he's still going 86 miles an hour, but the ultra-speed camera slows him down for you to see better. There he goes over the line, and look, Bob Feller gives him a head start of 10 feet before he throws the ball. Watch the ball now. Bob's pitch is going all the way. It breaks the target right through the bullseye, a few feet in front of the motorcycle.
Well, there's
where
the
are
answer.
You, Mr. Policeman?
And we even had video.
I don't know what your speedometer
Thank you,
reads
Andrew
now.
Blade. So the motorcycle is the one. I guess that's the one you could probably film, and it would make sense, and it did with the ball crossing into the sheet or whatever that might be before the motorcycle.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering how they would do the locomotive. That's why I was hesitant to go with that, but just went with it. So 0-1.
We don't normally do that. Dressed in a suit and wingtips in Chicago's Lincoln Park, Feller threw a baseball past a paper bullseye as a Harley-Davidson roared at 86 miles per hour with a head start. You saw the video. Fastball easily beat the bike, clocking over 100 miles an hour. A World War II Navy hero on the USS Alabama, Feller won 266 games, pitched 3 no-hitters, and entered Cooperstown first ballot in 1962. Now you got guys throwing over 100 on every single pitch. One kid's name, I can't think of it, but he is phenomenal. Quiz number 2. Happy International Left-Handers Day, Craig. You are one. Only about 10% of the world is left-handed. What percentage of Major League Baseball hitters bat from the left side?
Yes, I am a lefty. As far as this statistic goes, I'd imagine it's probably on the lower end, but I don't know exactly what to go. 20% and 30% actually seem kind of low based on the fact that you still see a lot of left-handers, even if it's not the norm. So I'm inclined to go with somewhere in the bottom 2. Yeah, I mean, 10% of the world's left-handed, but I think that's a lot different in the game of baseball. The percentage is much, much higher than that. So, yeah, do you have any inclination of where to go here?
I
don't know.
I really don't. I just know that, you have left-handed pitchers, you covet them because there's not many left-handed pitchers. And so because of a lot of the left-handed hitters in baseball, but, I think about all the best hitters in baseball. Now, Rose could be a switch hitter, but Tony Gwynn, Rod Carew, some of the great left-handed hitters, I don't know if it's just, I don't know. Just you're the lefty, so I'll let you
Let's
make
go 50%. Let's just go 50%.
50%. I think that's too high, but I hope you're right. It's 30%. Lefties dominate the batter's box. Roughly 30% of Major League Baseball hitters bat left-handed for built-in advantages. They stand closer to first, see righty breaking balls coming toward them, and pull low pitches with open hips. Legendary sluggers Ken Griffey Jr., Bryce Harper, naturally right-handed, but learn to swing left-handed to gain that elite edge. There you go. We're 0-2 today. We haven't done that in forever, so we will bounce back tomorrow. 40 is 50-50 pretty much as far as who was right on the answer. All right, let's get to the poll results. There are 2 of those. How many regular season wins? And regular season wins, not anything playoff if they were to get there, or bowl game, will SMU get in 2026? I said 9 wins.
Yeah, I think we've kind of been in line with most people. Everybody's kind of got the same thoughts at this stage with the games on the cusp of happening here. Florida State right out of the gates in Tallahassee is a very interesting way for SMU to open things up, in Louisville in week 3, also on the road. That first month's pretty dangerous, and then the between, I think, is a lot of toss-ups or a lot of games you expect them to win up until Notre Dame near the end on the road as well. So Depending on what you feel about those three, and those aren't the only potential losses, but those are the three ones that stick out. So, yeah, I think they're probably going to win one of those Florida State Louisville matchups. I wouldn't have them beat Notre Dame. I think somebody else like a Cal or a Virginia Tech maybe jumps up and nips them. But yeah, ultimately I fall back where pretty much everybody else was. Pretty much everybody else is, unless they just are awful on the road and lose to the three teams I mentioned or some other combination of Syracuse and Stanford, then I think 9 wins is probably about the sweet spot.
I would like to know, does that mean Kevin Jennings is playing in all of them? That might make a difference too. But I said 9 wins, and I didn't even look at their schedule. I said 9 wins. I like the way they are. I like Lashley, and I think they'll be in the middle of the mix. Now, that does not include a conference championship game or a bowl game or any type of playoff. So what did you say the number?
I said 9 wins. I think, yeah, it says too. Regular season wins.
Yeah, 45% agreed with us. So 9 wins that one. Now, 403 votes. That's a good number. The quiz number 2, or excuse me, the poll number 2, who takes tonight's Field of Dreams matchup in Dyersville? This is a cool tradition they've started in Major League Baseball. Of course, an incredible movie. 223 votes. 2 out of every 3 picked the Phillies to beat the Twins.
Yeah, I think it's a cool thing that they've created this Field of Dreams matchup in the last few years. It's been a nice little nod to the movie and just baseball history and nostalgia and all those great things. So I think it's a great marketing deal that the league does. And I mean, based on the results here, I'll go with the Phillies. I'm trying to figure out where the Twins even are. I guess they're middle of the AL Central right now, and the Phillies are just behind the Braves in the East. So yeah, I'll go ahead and go with the Phillies, who are, I mean, they're about even record wise, just slightly different in their individual divisions, obviously, but pretty similar record with 60 plus wins. So yeah, give me the slightly above 60 Phillies versus the at 60 Minnesota Twins.
All right, Philadelphia, 2/3 of the vote. Andrew, thank you very much. 0 for 2 in the quiz today. We didn't even sniff. And that is not something we do very often. Andrew Valade, thank you. Thank you to Garrett Ross. Thank you to, as well, Rez Michelangelo of the Flores family. Thank you for your time. Our sponsors, Craig, see you tomorrow. We have pretty good lineup tomorrow. One of our guests is John Bryce from USA Today. Wrote an article about Kalani Sitake visiting his birthplace, Tonga, for the first time since he was born. In that story, plus he also features Ryan Field, University of Northwestern, which is absolutely a gorgeous facility. Not a lot of seats. They don't need a lot of seats, but it is gorgeous. All right, for Craig, I'm David Smoak. Thank you for watching, being a part of 365 Sports. Spread the word, and good night.